Everybody ready? All right, welcome to the Joint Standing Committee for the Environment and Natural Resources. Today is Monday, May 24th, and we are gathered today for a few purposes. The first is to have a discussion about the budget that was presented to us and also the GoPIF. Dan is going to walk us through that. And then we're going to walk through some work sessions. And the work sessions are going to go in this order: 1429, 1467, and then we're going to tackle the two EPR bills together. That's 1471, 1532. Then we're going to tackle the air emissions bills, 163 and 1532 together. And then we're going to tackle some concept drafts in order numerically: 259, 387, 735, 866, 890, 901, and 1616. And I'll put that into the chat so everyone has it for reference. And with that, let's start introductions of committee members. Representative Bell.
Good morning, Art Bell. I represent House District 47, which is Yarmouth, Chebique, and Long Island.
Representative Ziegler.
Representative Paige Ziegler from District 96 in Waldo County, the 7 towns of Belmont, Liberty, Lincolnville, Montville, Morrow, Palermo, and Searsmont. And I'm having a difficult time with my internet this morning, so I'm going to go off of the video right now and just come when the votes are happening.
And Representative Dudera.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Vicki Dudera, coming at you from beautiful sunny Camden, and I represent that town as well as 2 other towns in District 94, Islesboro and Rockport.
And Representative Gramlich.
Good morning, Senator. Good morning, everyone. My name is Lori Gramlich, and I represent House District 13, which is the lovely seaside community of Old Orchard Beach.
Representative O'Connor.
Good morning, I'm Beth O'Connor. I represent the individuals of House District 5, which is Berwick and part of North Berwick.
And Representative Bloom.
Good morning, I'm Lydia Bloom. I represent House District 3, the coastal portion of York.
Representative Hanley.
Thank you, Senator. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jeff Hanley. I represent District 87, which is Pittston, Alna, Westcasset, and Randolph.
And Senator Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. I'm Rick Bennett. I have the honor of serving 13 towns in Cumberland and Oxford County in the Maine Senate, the beautiful foothills and lakes region part of Western Maine.
I happen to know that it's Senator Bennett's birthday today. Happy birthday, Senator Bennett.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Maybe we can sing a Zoom round for him at the end of our meeting today.
So
Lori is shaking her head vigorously no.
Happy birthday, Gemini twin.
Thank you.
And Representative Tucker.
Happy birthday also to Bob Dylan. My name is Ralph Tucker. I represent House District 50, which is the people who live in the lovely seaside community of Brunswick.
And I'm Stacy Brenner. I represent Senate District 30, which includes all of Gorham, most of Scarborough, and part of Buxton. And we're also joined by Dan Tartikoff and Sabrina Carey. Dan is our analyst from OPLA, and Sabrina is our clerk. I don't know if Deirdre's coming today. I don't think she is.
She is in EUT. They are meeting every day this week.
All right. So with that, Dan, I'm going to pass it to you to launch us into the budget discussion.
Sure. So I sent out some budget documents this morning. This process has been a little less structured than we were used to for the supplemental or biennial, but I understand policy committees are invited to report back to AFA on or before 4 p.m. tomorrow. So The plan is to run through the DEP related portions of the Part A and B of the change package, as well as the Governor's Office of Policy Innovation in the Future portion, despite that typically being under SLG committee's jurisdiction, as well as there's a couple of language parts under DEP that we'll review. And there is one additional language part that is under ag, but it relates to PFAS contamination. So I wasn't sure if you wanted to review that one as well. So I'm going to screen share all of those and we'll go through it. And I believe the plan is to take a vote on each of them by a show of hands, although it will require me to end the screen share for each vote so I can see everyone.
That's right.
So the first one is, this is page 55 of the Part A and B initiatives. This is a DEP initiative. It establishes one environmental specialist 4 position to manage climate plan rulemaking on hydrofluorocarbons, appliance standards, and sea level rise, and provides funding for related all other costs. This is a general fund position appropriation as indicated there.
Cool, yeah. It really did drop quickly. It went from being.
Wait a minute here. All right. Okay, any questions, discussions, thoughts about that section? We want to go ahead and have a, yes, Senator Bennett.
Thank you. So I just managed to scroll through these this morning, and I guess the overall impact to the general fund, I mean, I'm not opposed to obviously voting them one at a time, but I was just curious if we could just have a sense of the overall impact of the general fund that is being requested here. I'm trying to do the math, but.
What if we go through the whole thing and then we can go back and vote each section? Would that help?
That would be great, and that would help with Dan's presentation too, probably.
One other option could be we could go through the whole thing, and then if anyone wants to set anything aside and discuss it individually, you could vote on everything else through a single vote if you didn't want to take individual votes on each.
Okay.
We've done that in the past.
Sounds great.
You can ponder that while I go through the rest of it. So there's that one. On the next page, there is another DEP initiative in the Air Quality Bureau. It provides one-time funding from the general fund, $400,000 to support the state forest carbon mapping project. The next is in the Maine Environmental Protection Fund. There are 3 initiatives. One is to establish 1 senior environmental engineer position, 1 environmental engineer position, 1 assistant environmental engineer position, and 3 ES3 positions to support land use licensing activities and provide funding for all other related costs. The second establishes 4 limited period and 2 permanent geology technician 2 positions, 2 planning and research associate 2 positions, 1 environmental engineer position, 1 ES3 2 position, 1 limited period and 2 permanent ES3 positions, 1 chemist 1 position, 1 limited period GIS coordinator position, 1 certified environmental hydrogeologist position, and 1 public service coordinator 1 position to assist in the identification and management of PFAS and provides funding for related all other costs. That is in total 11 positions, some of them part and some of them full-time and some of them permanent, some of them temporary. The third initiative here is a one-time funding for a competitive grant program that matches local funding for the upgrade of municipal culverts at stream crossings. This is an other special revenue funds allocation, not a general fund appropriation. On to the next page. This is the Bureau of Remediation and Waste Management. It provides one-time funding to support the treatment of drinking water, environmental testing, and management of contaminated waste caused by PFAS. This is another special revenue funds allocation. in the Water Quality Bureau, funding.
On that. Do you want questions now, Madam Chair?
Let's go through the whole thing and then we can swing back to each section for questions if there are any.
And I'm sure there's folks from DEP here too, and GOPIF who are available. The Water Quality Initiative is funding for the approved reclassification of one assistant environmental engineer position to an environmental engineer position retroactive to December 2020, and funding for related all other costs. This is in other special revenue funds allocation. That brings us to the Office of Policy Innovation in the Future. There are 3 initiatives under this office. The first provides funding for green communities, emissions reduction planning, technical assistance, and grants for community climate projects. That's a general fund appropriation. The second, it establishes 2 public service coordinator 2 positions and 1 public service coordinator 3 position to provide support partnerships with Maine's cities and towns, resiliency planning for sea level rise, and statewide adaptation policy and housing, and provides funding for related all other expenses. These are new positions at GOPIF, I assume, and they are general fund. The third initiative provides one-time funding for municipal resilience planning and implementation grants. That's a general fund proposal, and that is the end of the Part A and B initiatives.
Okay. Senator Bennett, did you want to circle back to a question on a section? You're muted, Senator.
I know, got it. Thank you. I have a few questions. First of all, so what's the sum total of new positions at DEP? Should we have DEP people come over?
Yep, I'm just trying to find my list of people that, hold on, just give me 1 second.
Thank you.
Okay. Welcome, Commissioner Loisum. I think we have some questions for you.
Good morning. Could we also invite Sherry Kelly and David Burns from the DEP?
We can. I'll grab them. I don't see Sherry Kelly there, but I do see David Burns. Here he comes. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so I think the first question was the total sum.
Total sum of new positions at DEP?
18 permanent, 6 limited period. So total of 24 for the biennium.
And what's this total staff at DEP now?
Currently authorized, I believe, is 370.
Okay. All of those positions, I think, are general fund, right? The new ones?
Yes.
May I ask one other question, Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. I see Representative Bloom has one too. I was just struck by the odd numbers on page 58 for the remediation waste management line. They seem oddly precise. $8,616,773. What are those? What's driving those numbers?
Well, we're missing my ace in the hole, Sherry Kelly here, who actually does the numbers, but I can do my best to explain this to you. And as a non-accountant, it's the 25 million split over 2 years with die cap and stay cap taken out. So that money is apparently automatically transferred. So that's why it looks different than 25 million.
What's
So it's
die-
8 something plus 12 something adds up to not quite 25. And the difference is die cap.
What is die cap and stay cap?
It's maybe Dan can do a better job on that one than I can. I always have to ask that question as well. It's part of the state funding formula.
Oh, good. I'm glad I asked a question that stumped even you, Commissioner. That must be a really good question. Dan, do you know what that is, or Dave Burns?
It's a twofer. You stumped me too. That sounds like a fiscal term, which I try to stay away from.
Okay.
David, Burns, did you have anything to add there?
No, I can't. I have to turn to our accountants to explain that every time.
Representative Bloom, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Senator. Commissioner Loisem, I remember a few years ago, we talked about staffing and talked about how you were understaffed for so many years. Does this bring you back up to where you wanted to be, or where you had been years ago, 10 years ago, I guess it was now? Remember you showed how you've lost so many positions. And now where are we at now in relationship to that?
So at our peak, we had, I want to say it was somewhere in the range of 420 permanent positions at the department. We're in the low 400s for a lot of years. And as I said a little earlier, we have 370 currently authorized positions. But over that same period of time, our programs have changed a lot, our bureaus have changed. So it's become harder and harder to compare total staff now to total staff then. These particular positions, as you can see, are very specific for the purposes that we're asking for. There's still a lot of other program areas where we could use some help too, but these were the absolute highest priority for us this year.
Thank you.
Representative Gramlich.
Thank you, Senator. Good morning, Commissioner. Good to see you. I have a question about under section 0248 water quality, where we've got the reclassification. I'm just curious how many folks currently work within that department or that division, and then how this might change that individual's position. I don't mean to get so into the weeds, but I think folks on the screen know that I've got a little passion for water quality, so I appreciate questions.
So this is one of our engineering positions in the Bureau of Water Quality that would be involved with licensing and compliance work. I don't know off the top of my head how many we have. There is a fair number in that division doing that work. And this actually reflects what we try to do with our positions. It's really hard to find experienced people that qualify for the environmental engineer classification. We have much better luck hiring assistant engineers who may not have their PE license yet. And so it works out great if when we hire someone as an AE, an assistant engineer, we can tell them, you get your time worked under a licensed engineer, and we can reclassify you to an environmental engineer when you get your own license. You qualify for that classification, you go through the process with HR, and it helps us to retain good qualified people with those kind of certifications. So it's just somebody successfully making their way up the ladder a little bit.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Does the committee have any additional questions regarding the budget in total or parts or pieces for the commissioner? Okay, why don't we go ahead and vote on the budget? I think with this one, it's just a show of hands if we're ready to move. Yes, Representative Hanley.
Yes, I'd like some individual votes on some of these issues.
Okay, we'll go through it then. Dan, maybe, I don't know that we need to screen share it again unless folks need reminders of each section. What do you, Representative Hanley, are you comfortable?
Dan's screen share is so tiny that's why you see my face. I have to get, so I download and expand the email he gives us. It's much easier to read that way. So
Okay. Yes.
I won't be seeing you. I'll be seeing the screenshot
on
my enlarged version.
Representative Gramlich.
Thank you, Senator. I'm wondering if the committee might be receptive to Dan's idea about particular items that we might want to set aside. I don't know if Representative Hanley has items that he's interested in setting aside so that we might have an opportunity to vote on the remaining items in the totality. Just a thought, based on what our analysts had shared with us.
Okay. Representative Hanley, how would you feel about setting a few items aside and then voting on the rest?
Yeah, that's fine. There's only 6 total
Okay.
votes that I see that we're going to need to take, so I'm not too concerned. But we can set a few of them aside.
Okay, what would you like to set aside?
Allow me to go, I'm going to go to my screen so I can read them. I would like to set aside page 62, which is the last page in the documents. And I have a question about page 58. And I would like to set aside page 57.
The question you have for 58, is it a question that would be helpful for Commissioner Loisem to answer?
Let me go back to that. I'm scrolling through as I do this. So. Yes, my question, I just want to make certain that this is a one-time expense, this 25 million total. And it is from special revenue. It's not a general fund budget item.
It is one time. It would be a transfer from the general fund into that other special revenue account under the uncontrolled sites fund. So it is general funding.
All right. Thank you.
So is that something you'd like to set aside, or is that something we can?
No, I'm good with that. I'll leave that alone.
Okay, so we're going to set aside page 62 and page 57.
Yep.
And then we'd like to vote on the rest.
Yes.
All right, a show of hands. Okay, great. Did you get that, Dan?
No. Everyone keeps jumping around. All right. Good.
All right. So then let's look at 57 first.
Yeah, I'm going to my page. Hold on just a moment.
Perhaps Dan could put that on the screen.
Yes.
Representative Dudera.
Thank you. I wanted to just ask the commissioner, this first part here where we're going to be getting more senior environmental engineers and another environmental engineer. We heard regarding several bills, we heard about the backlog and how developers are waiting and towns are waiting. And I'm wondering if the commissioner, anticipates that filling these positions is going to help with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Dudera. Yes, that is exactly what we're anticipating. Those positions would assist us with doing, is dealing with the large number of land use permitting applications specifically.
Representative Hanley, did you want to draw our attention to something specifically on page 57?
Yeah, I was just concerned with the expansion of government and in the uncertain times that are ahead of us. I find the request for this many positions a little unsettling. So, and I didn't see anything in here about the increasing the people that would research permitting processes. So,
well, I think if I'm not mistaken, those first few folks up there, the engineers, And then the folks at the bottom that are going to work on culverts and stream crossings.
Yeah. I mean, there's a backlog that is always being talked about.
Uh-huh. So I think this
Anyway,
whole
my
thing-
concern is the increase in government positions. And
right.
that's where I fall with this.
So I guess that gets to the question of, do we want to increase the department's capacity to get work done by adding more positions in order to manage the regulated community's desire to have things move more quickly, or not, right?
Yeah, I mean, the argument is always the same. You can have anything you want. You just have to pay for it.
Mhm.
And we also, it's our duty to be vigilant about the possible economic downturns or upturns of our state and our society in the future. So that's why I question this kind of expense when I see what might be coming at us in an economic sense over the next couple of years. So I'm a little uncomfortable with this increase in the department size.
Senator Bennett?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I share the discomfort because, but only because I really don't have a good sense of the outcomes that may be expected from these additional 6 positions. And if Commissioner Loisem could speak to, you know, what, I know she's very concerned about the backlog as well. And I think what's missing for me is just sort of like the linearity or the linkage between, okay, these are 6 positions. What is the expected outcome in terms of reduction of backlog? And I have the same question regarding the PFAS related positions, the 11 positions there. I mean, if we could get some understanding of, given these additional tools and personnel, monies, how is this going to help? What is your best guess, Commissioner, your plans for what this will actually accomplish?
Sure. Thank you for the question, Senator Bennett. So regarding the land use licensing positions, as I mentioned in my testimony, we have, I believe it was 13 staff who are currently what we would consider project managers processing licensing applications. And then we have 3 positions that are stormwater review engineers. So for those 13 staff, they at any one time may have currently up to 30 applications assigned to them that have an applicant that's waiting to hear back on how that license is coming. And so if you imagine adding 3 more project managers to the 13, it might mean that we could get their project load down to 20 instead of 30 sometimes. So, you know, we are anticipating a fairly steady state for the next many years. If the economy is growing in Maine, if people are investing, there will be more permits that people want. And so we're trying to get enough live bodies to spread the project load across. And for the stormwater reviews, I think as we've described, you may have heard from Director Nick Livesey in some of his testimony. Those are standards that we have applications reviewed by licensed engineers. And like I described earlier, we here are proposing an assistant engineer, an environmental engineer, and then a supervisory engineer to have that same kind of ladder. And the number of permits in front of them, you know, imagine you have 30 permits held by 1 out of a dozen staff, and then half of all of those need to go through our stormwater engineers. So it's just a numbers game of trying to have the right balance between project load and staffing to be able to process applications in a timely way. And so this number is what we think will get us there.
I'm grateful for your explanation there, and not surprised that you have it mapped out like that. But it's really, I'm pleased to hear it. Thank you.
And if the committee would bear with me, Director Dave Burns here is the one who spent quite a bit of time trying to estimate what was the minimal need we had for staff for PFAS. And if you'd like, he could provide you some detail on how we estimated those positions.
I would love that.
Great. Well, I will try to do that, hopefully as eloquently as the commissioner just explained the last. These, I think we've mentioned in testimony previously that we have roughly 700 sites where land application of biosolids and septage has occurred that need to be investigated. This is dovetailing with LD 1600, which requires us to look at these sites before 2024 and 2025. So this is the need in order to meet that timeline. Actually, when this estimate was put together, we were only looking at 550 sludge land application sites, but we're also working on a priority system to go to evaluate the sites that should allow us to eliminate some that may have been licensed and never received. So I'm still fairly comfortable with this estimate. But this is a mix of people who are able to go out in the field, take samples based on our priority system, get results back. It involves people who can manage contracts, because this will be a mix of private contract as well as state personnel. Data management has proven to be a large issue based on our experience to date, Fairfield, Benton, and Unity Township. So we have positions in here to deal with data management and display of that data so that we can make real-time decisions on where to go next. It also includes personnel that will allow us to be investigating sites and at the same time beginning to remediate the ones that we're finding that are above the health advisories. All of this is going to be coordinated under a public service coordinator position, which would allow our division director, who is currently spearheading this, to actually run the division instead of focusing entirely on PFAS. So our current power resources behind this is using existing staff, drawing them away from other projects, other cleanup and remediation work that is simply being set aside because the PFAS situation is a more dire consequence. So this would allow us to be able to deal with the remediation programs that we have across the rest of the Bureau, as well as to take on the PFAS challenge.
Thank you so much. That's helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Representative Tucker.
Thank you very much. I'm pretty satisfied that this department, as it's currently constituted, has been quite frugal and careful in their planning on fiscal responsibility. I think there's a danger here of being penny wise and pound foolish. I think if this was a private business that we were running, we would not hesitate to get the job done and to provide the services needed. I hesitate to complain about government delay or government failures, but then to fail to remedy the very situations that the departments are being accused of failing to do. So I'm going to be voting for this and the other contested items in this budget. Thank you.
Representative Gramlich.
Thank you, Senator. I don't think I could have said it quite as eloquently as Representative Tucker. I do agree, but I just had a clarifying question. I think it was last week when the commissioner and Hannah Pingree came and did their overview. I asked a question about any money that's going to be earmarked for drinking water, particularly with sewage and drinking water, in light of the fact that over 50% of our residents and homeowners get their drinking water from wells. And I just, as I reviewed the budget documents, I don't recall seeing any money earmarked specifically for that. And I'm simply curious if anybody in the department, the commissioner or her team, have any more information about that.
I do not have the page handy in front of me. There is the 25 million for wastewater, and I believe there was also 25 million for drinking water, which would be for public water supplies. And I think Representative Gramlich, what I recall you, Hannah has put something in the chat, I think, that is answering it. I believe she's here under the other Melanie Loism, if you'd like to have her address the part that's outside of DEP. If she may be able to talk about any further answer to your question from last time about drinking water.
If it's, I appreciate that. And I'm reading the chat right now. So if there's money that's been allocated outside of what we're reviewing that will go toward drinking water, particularly for wells, then that my question is answered. If that's indeed what's happening.
It's in the American Rescue
Yes.
Act money.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, any additional questions or thoughts on page 57, or are we ready to move to page 62?
Should we vote on page 50?
Yes, we can vote on page 57 first, and then we'll move to 62. Thank you, Representative Bloom. Okay, a show of hands in support of page 57.
I'm not sure whether Representative Hanley wanted to take each of those three items individually on page 57, or whether his intent was to do them all together. There are different things there. That's all.
No, all together is fine.
Okay.
Okay, a show of hands in support of page 57. We'll wait until you tell us you've gotten us all counted for. Dan.
Oh, sorry, I'm good.
All right. Great. Let's move on to page 62.
I think we need to see who's opposed.
Those in opposition on page 57.
Sorry, Senator Bennett, did you vote for or against that? I missed it.
He voted for.
Okay.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay, big deep breath, on to 62. Representative Hanley, do you want to start us off with your concerns on page 62?
Yes, my concerns are just the overall spending of money with what's in front of us, what's possibly in front of us, and we as stewards of the state's interest, I mean, we have to balance everything. So I won't prolong the discussion. I'm just not going to support any of these spending issues.
Anyone else on the committee have any thoughts? Senator Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd prefer if you could take these individually.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions on each of these three specific items?
Can you please screen share?
Okay, so the first initiative provides funding for green communities, emissions reduction planning, technical assistance, and grants for community climate projects. This is 1.5 million for each of 2 years. Everyone in support of initiative 1, please raise your hand. All set, Dan?
There were people that kept jumping on, sorry.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right, those in opposition to the first initiative.
Good.
Okay, the second initiative establishes 2 public service coordinator 2 positions and 1 public service coordinator 3 position, to provide support partnerships with Maine cities and towns, resiliency planning for sea level rise, and statewide adaptation policy and housing, and provides funding for related all other expenses. This is 433 and change the first year and 442,000 and change the second year. Those in favor, raise your hand.
Good.
Those in opposition.
I just want to make sure, Senator Bennett, did you vote for the one before?
He did.
Okay,
I voted for the first one. I'm voting against the second.
good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm good.
Thank you for attending to my.
Okay, the last initiative on page 62, it provides one-time funding for municipal resilience planning and implementation grants. This is 1.25 each year for 2 years. Those in favor?
Good.
Those in opposition?
All right.
All right. Now, do we have to look at the GOPIF?
So the last vote was GOPIF.
Great.
We have the language parts, though, if you want to run through those.
That would be great.
So the first language part is Part Q. This is the one I mentioned that is technically under agriculture's jurisdiction, as it's a DACF transfer, but this transfers 15 million from the unappropriated general fund surplus to DACF for the purpose of abating, cleaning up, or mitigating the threats or hazards posed or potentially posed by PFAS contamination impacting agricultural producers in the state and the food supply, to provide support to impacted farms, to support critical PFAS research necessary for farm viability, and to otherwise allow for the department to strategically and effectively respond to PFAS concerns and issues as they arise. Do you want me to run through all of these language parts and then we can discuss at the end?
That would be my preference. Is there any opposition? Okay.
So the part R is a DEP transfer. This will require a transfer of 25 million from the unappropriated surplus of the general fund to the DEP uncontrolled sites fund for the purpose of abating, cleaning up, or mitigating the threats or hazards posed or potentially posed by PFAS contamination in the state. This is the funding that was provided for in one of the Part A and B initiatives that was just voted on. And then the last part is Part S. This is a $5 million transfer from the unappropriated surplus of the general fund to the DEP Maine Environmental Protection Fund account for the purpose of providing funds for a competitive grant program that matches local funding for the upgrade of municipal culverts at stream crossings to improve fish and wildlife habitats and increase community safety.
Any questions regarding that language? Comments? Yes, Representative Gramlich.
Thank you, Senator. So that, Dan, that $25 million transfer to for the PFAS, that was, I know you said it, but I'm going to just check in with something. That allocation of money, pardon me, that allocation of money would go to fund some of those positions so that we can actually do the work to clean up PFAS. Am I in the ballpark with that?
No, I think those positions for PFAS remediation, and someone from the department can correct me if I'm wrong, were actually funded through a general fund appropriation in the initiative. The 25 million is going to, we were on page 58, there's an initiative in remediation and waste management to provide one-time funding to support the treatment of drinking water, environmental testing, and management of contaminated wastes caused by PFAS. I believe that's where the 25 million is going, and that there was a separate general fund appropriation to support those positions to do that work.
Okay, thank you.
Director Pingary's here also, if anyone has any questions specifically for her about the GoPIF budget. All right. Do we need to vote on the language, or are we just reviewing it?
Typically, committees will vote on language parts.
Okay. Is everyone comfortable taking it as a whole? Yes, Senator Bennett.
Thank you. It's a bit embarrassing for me to admit this, but I just would like to have my votes reflect my previous votes in the on the line items, and I'm not sure how to map those directly to these. So I'd be comfortable with just having a blanket statement that, you know, the votes would just reflect on the language that what we voted on the line items.
Okay. Representative Bloom, did you have a question? Any other thoughts? Dan, how can we accomplish that?
So in terms of the 25 million for PFAS, that was a unanimous vote in the Part A and B. In terms of the municipal culvert funding, that was a divided vote with Representatives O'Connor and Hanley opposing. We did not have any portion in ours that related to the DACF PFAS funding. That was probably in the Ag Part A and B initiatives that I didn't pull out, but we could just leave that one aside. It's not squarely within this committee's subject matter jurisdiction since it pertains to DACF. It's up to you.
Okay. So that would mean that that you could reflect our votes on the line items for the parts of the language review that it matches.
Right. So for part R, if everyone's good with it, I'll just reflect that unanimous vote for the PFAS remediation funding, not the positions.
Yes, please.
And for part S, which is the culvert funding, I would reflect the divided vote with Representatives O'Connor and Hanley opposing. Is that correct?
Yes, I'd like that language. That would be good.
Okay, that's fine. And we'll leave part Q out.
Thank you.
And that should do it. I'll draft up a memo similar to what we sent for the budget and send it out to you for a brief review, but we'll need to get it in by 4 tomorrow.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. And with that, we can move on to opening a work session for LD 1429. This is our large omnibus climate change bill, an act to implement the most time-sensitive recommendations of the Maine Climate Council. Representative Tucker.
I move that we carry over LD 1429.
Second.
I second.
All right, so Representative Hanley seconds. Any discussion? All right, let's go ahead and take a vote. Sabrina, we're ready.
Senator Brenner.
Yes.
Representative Tucker.
Yes.
Senator Bennett.
Yes.
Representative Hanley.
Yes.
Senator Carney.
Yes.
Representative Bell.
Yes.
Representative Bloom,
Yes.
Representative Dudera,
Yes.
Representative Gramlich,
Yes.
Representative Johansson, absent. Representative O'Connor,
Yes.
Representative Toole, absent. Representative Ziegler,
Yes.
11 yes, 2 absent.
Yes, Dan.
Is everyone comfortable with me coming up with something as a justification for the carryover? I assume lots of overlap, lots of funding proposals that are floating around, more time to determine what to move out of it. Good.
Bingo. You got it. Thank you, Dan. Tired of coughing it once again. Before we go any further, Representative Johansson, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Senator. I'm Chris Johansson. I represent House District 145, the 18 organized towns between Bridgewater and Sherman.
Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, and with that, we'll open up a work session for LD 1467, and Representative Dudera has this, just for everyone's recollection, is an act to promote a circular economy through increased post-consumer recycled plastic content in plastic beverage containers. And I believe we left this discussion off on Friday related to the spirits bottles. So perhaps you can bring us up to speed, Representative Dudera.
Sure. Thank you very much. Yes, we pretty much what I suggested was going to happen on Friday is in fact what we're doing. We are exempting Bablo from the requirements of this, and then writing in that they will need to do that when the initiators of deposits sign up or the certificate of approval holders. So we have an amendment that has been drafted. Tim Poulin from Bablo has just added a few thoughts. So, you know, it's still getting a little bit massaged, but the substance of it is there. And Dan, I don't know if you want to add anything to this. We also addressed another issue that came up quickly, which was that if the post-consumer content is not, you know, if these requirements aren't being met, that the initiators of deposits are not able to sell that particular product, but it had been worded that it looked like they couldn't sell any products. So we fixed that. We have fixed that concern too. Dan, you want to give a quick update just on the amendment and that we are figuring out this piece of it. So
I received the amendment for the first time at about 10 o'clock last night. So I've noted some issues with it. I also saw that an email from Tim Poulin about additional changes, but I haven't had a chance to look because I've been doing the budget review.
right. I figured that. I was looking at it and also listening to you, but I thought he can't be looking at this right now. He's just made a few minor changes, and I spoke to Paula Clark this morning. She felt too that, you know, these are things that we can work out in language review. But so based on that and feeling like it's in very good shape and that everybody's just figuring out a way to solve these very little minor things, I would like to say ought to pass as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
Representative Bloom is a second. Senator Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just for clarity's sake for me, the Bablo exemption would encompass just spirits, or does it also, or does it more broadly defined as alcohol? And part of the question there is clarity about those wineries and the small wine labels that have those special bottling I was concerned about. Thank you.
Bablo amendment deals with spirits. Alcohol, I understand, is a different thing entirely. What you're talking about with the wine, the manufacturers of those small wine bottles, we did put into the original language an exemption for folks who are, I forget the exact amount of bottles, but they would fall under that category. They don't have to pay the registration fee. If their post-consumer plastic in those small bottles is not what the requirements ask them to be, they can apply for a waiver if they feel they can't get the plastic. I mean, I have checked into it, that the rPET is available for them. I guess that wine manufacturers are not wanting to use post-consumer recycled because they're afraid it affects the taste or the odor. In that case, that's what the waiver provision is for, so that they could apply for a waiver.
Thank you.
Anne?
Is everyone clear what they're voting on? I haven't distributed anything to the committee. I don't know if I received a draft from Newell Auger that he wrote, but it wasn't clear to me that that was what you were proposing, Representative Dudera.
Yes, that's what this is. It was exactly what we talked about on Friday. And I think that, my only concern was that Mr. Poulin hadn't seen it. Mr. Poulin has responded this morning, and we do have that. He's added, I know you haven't had a chance to look at it, Dan. He has added a couple of paragraphs that seem to me just clarifying, because this field is so, it's there's a lot of different definitions. So he's added in there a holder of a distillery or small distillery, and that they're included. So it looks like more language, but I haven't spoken to him, but his email said that, he was going to review it with his team.
Representative Hanley?
Yes, thank you, Senator. I'm generally in support of the legislation, but I do not like voting on amendments I haven't seen. And so I'm wondering if, even at this late stage, do we need a tabling motion for a day to get this ironed out? I don't want to support something that I want to support without understanding what I'm supposed to support.
I understand. I understand what you're saying.
I don't know if that's a direction we want to go. If you'd like to get a unanimous report, we might need to do that. I'll let you make that decision. You're the sponsor.
Did you want to respond, or did you want to?
Thank you. Thank you. I certainly appreciate, I would love to get a unanimous, this bill's incredibly important to me, and I've appreciated all of the support from this committee going forward. And, I feel like it really is a step in the right direction as we attempt to deal with this incredible plastic problem that we have. And it's a good management strategy. I am mindful of the committee and having another day if we could achieve our work today. But despite the fact that most of us work on the weekends, not everybody does. And that's a little bit of the situation I think I have run into here, but I'll wait to hear what other people feel.
Representative O'Connor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Dudera. I also, I want to support this legislation because I think it's the right step to go in. However, I'm pretty uncomfortable right now. And I'm not sure if it's appropriate or not. If we can do it, but I think that 24 hours is a good idea, because I can't, if we vote this today, I'll vote no. But if we have the little time and we can review, I hopefully it'll get my support. So I would offer a tabling motion on this.
Is that a motion, or would you like to? That's a motion. Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Everybody in favor of tabling? Representative Bloom? Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan?
I know that we just tabled that, but I am anticipating I will need to be in EUT tomorrow. We'd sort of planned on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, potentially being committee days in ENR. I'm not sure I'll be available tomorrow if you want to work this tomorrow.
Perfect. Wednesday.
All right. And with that, we will close the work session on 1467, and we'll go ahead and open a work session together on 1471 and 1532. So 1471 is an act to establish a stewardship program for packaging. This was sponsored by Senator Jim Dill. And 1541 is an act to support and improve municipal recycling programs and save taxpayer money. And this was sponsored by Representative Nicole Grahowski. Dan, do you want to offer us just an update of where we are with 1541?
So I sent you an analysis as well as a copy of the DEP's proposed amendment, which was distributed over the week yesterday, I guess. I don't know if there's much value to going through the analysis. The first page is pretty much just the bill summaries. The second page, which I normally don't go over, is those testifying for, against, or either for or against the bill. And then on the last page, I have very briefly listed a number of specific amendments that were proposed by various parties, but I understand there is interest in going in some detail through the DEP amendment. So whatever you would like to do, that's where it stands right now on 1541.
Great, thank you. Representative Tucker?
I would like to move ought to pass as amended on LD 1541. And in addition, request that we bring on the sponsor of the bill and a representative of the DEP, and that we screen share the 17-page amendment showing the yellow amendments that DEP has suggested on the original bill.
I'll second the motion.
Second. Oh,
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, ought to pass as amended, second by Senator Bennett. And I am bringing over Representative Grahowski and Paula Clark from the DEP.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I believe that when we had this previously in public hearing, I specifically made the request that Commissioner Loisem be present for to explain the amendment when they brought it forward.
Yep, she's here too.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. And I don't see Senator Dill at this point. So we'll just go ahead and move forward without him.
Before we start with the screen share, perhaps Senator Bennett could have his question.
Well, I had my real question was, maybe it's moot at this point. The question was why the delay, given that that I understood that they were invited to participate. And I know that DEP was actively involved last year before my service in the legislature on a similar bill, and I was just puzzled why the DEP took a position neither for nor against this bill, and then on the day of the public hearing suggested that an amendment would be forthcoming. But I frankly am more interested in just getting into the meat of it at this point and maybe see what the substance of the amendment might be. But if having said all that and having complained in a public setting, if Commissioner Loisem would like to respond, I would certainly want to give her that opportunity.
Thank you, Senator Bennett. I appreciate that. I think that as I think everyone has seen, and as Representative Grahowski has experienced, we've been trying to work on formulating what a proposed amendment could look like that reflects the things that we felt like had reached some agreement last year, but working off of the document that the representative had produced this year. And you all receiving it over the weekend is a reflection of, as what Representative Dudera referred to earlier, all of us working over the weekend trying to deal with all of these things. So I would like to thank Paula and her staff for the time that they've spent, because more than anybody, she's put in a lot of hours, including over Mother's Day, working on some of these things. So she is the one most capable of taking you through the details to whatever level of understanding you'd like to have. She is the most familiar, as is Representative Grahowski, who truly has worked very hard on this legislation and understands the details very well.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go ahead and do a screen share and move through 1541. Okay, so Dan, is that you that's going to share the screen, and then you'll move through as
That's me,
oh,
Paula.
that's Paula Clark. Okay.
Yeah, I just put that up.
Did we give you host status to be able to do that?
Do you see the draft up now?
We do not. Nope.
You don't. Okay. Well, maybe. Hold on just a minute.
Sabrina, do you need to do something to allow Paula Clark permission to screen share?
She should be able to. It's available. So.
All right. There we go.
Is it up now? Okay, great.
Yes, it is. It's coming.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Senator Brenner, Representative Tucker, and committee members. As Melanie mentioned, we've been putting together an amendment and have been having ongoing conversations with Representative Grahowski while that is coming together. So I thank her very much. Conversations with her were extremely helpful in making some decisions about what directions to go in with the amendment. So many thanks to her for that. Now, although we conceptually supported the idea of this legislation, as I had discussed in the testimony, in the aggregate, the number of issues that we had concerns about were sufficient that we really determined that we needed to put forward an amendment to address some of those things. So what I'd like to do very generally is just mention a few of those general and overarching issues, and then I can go through quickly page by page and point out to you where the changes were made and what the rationale was for those changes. Generally speaking, one of the things that we did in the amendment was to move a lot of the detail into the rulemaking realm. There were several areas in the bill where there was a lot of detailed language that we felt more appropriately was moved to rulemaking. And so those decisions could be made with a broader range of interested parties involved, and having the benefit of the discussion of those interested parties as we move forward with some of that. Some of the areas where we removed some language and moved that decision-making to rulemaking was around a couple of definitions in particular, readily recyclable and similar municipalities. And we also mentioned rulemaking with respect to producer payments and audits that we would expect the stewardship organization to conduct. So those are things where you see a lot of deleted language in the body of the bill, but in section 13, which is at the end, there is reference to all of those matters, and our expectation would be that we would develop rules around those issues. We also had a general concern about the schedule and the implementation timeframe. So we have made some adjustments to that looking to require the department to initiate rulemaking by December of 2022. That really is the trigger date that is in this current amendment. And then the other major pieces of establishing the program key off that date. The stewardship organization contract would come after the rules. So that would be sometime in 2023. Producer payments begin 180 days after the contract is in place. And we also bumped out the first DEP reporting back to the legislature from 2023 to 24 to accommodate all of that. We have tried to address some of the concerns that we've heard most recently by including some language to address a variety of things. A few of those, just as examples, are that this draft, this amendment, includes a needs assessment. That was a concept that was drawn from Representative Dill's bill from 1471. And we thought that that was a good idea. It is part of what the stewardship organization would be doing. So that needs assessment language is in the amendment draft. We also believe that additional stakeholder involvement was appropriate. And so in this amendment, you'll also see, again, in section 13, which addresses rulemaking, that there are a couple of additional requirements around the rulemaking with an eye toward making that process more robust and more inclusive of all interested parties. We've also included the concept of tracking UPCs rather than just brands. We heard from a number of potential producers that it would be very difficult for retailers to track brands. And after some discussion, we decided that introduction of the UPC concept was probably a good one for that purpose and would make it easier across the board. And we have also included, because there were concerns on both sides of this issue, we've included a provision that would require the department to evaluate a number of federally regulated drugs and products to determine which of those might appropriately be exempt from this program. In the 1471 draft, there was a fairly lengthy list of exemptions. And part of the concern that we heard was that the products that are included in those exemptions are pretty wide ranging. They were broad in scope. And we felt that there are some certainly that are appropriate to exclude. There are others that perhaps we should look at a little more carefully. So that provision is in there, providing for that evaluation and potentially for a rulemaking to address the result of that evaluation. So with that, I'd be happy to go through briefly, page by page, and point out to you where we have made changes.
May I ask a question, Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
Sorry to interrupt, Ms. Clark. I appreciate that overview. I just wanted to ask procedurally whether it would be best, as Ms. Clark is going through page by page, if we have specific questions related to ask them at that point. Is that what you'd like?
Yes, please.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, the first change on the first page is a reference to European article number. This is only significant in terms of applying the UPC concept, and you'll see where the reference to that is made. Because this phrase was used, we needed to define it, but it is in association with the UPC concept for tracking.
Ms. Clark, I'm going to stop you for a second. Representative Tucker has a question.
Oh, I'm not on page 1. I'm on page 2, I think. Could we start at the beginning, please?
I'm on the first page, section 1D was what I was just referencing.
No, I'm on.
Your screen share is not moving with us. With you, maybe, is the problem.
I'm on a list that has an I changed to a J, and a J changed to a K, and a K changed to an L.
Yeah, I don't think the screen share, I don't think your screen share is tracking your conversation, Paula.
Okay, so I should be back to this section 1.
Yeah, I think what you're looking at on your screen might not be what you're sharing with us, because we're sort of static. It's not moving.
Okay, and what page is up on the screen share currently?
We are at the top where we're on the second page.
You're on the second page.
Yep. There you go. Now you're moving.
Okay. So now you're back to section 1?
There we are. Okay,
Yep.
got it.
Thank you.
All right, my apologies, that was my fault.
No problem.
Wrong arrow. So the phrase that I was just talking about is 1D, Representative Tucker. EAN references European article number. In O, definition of producer, the change that we made in O2 is to include the phrase is the sole entity. And this is something that we didn't consider last year in 2104. It read imports into the state for sale, etc. We've included is the sole entity that imports due to concerns about the fact that if there are multiple importers of a single product, it's very difficult to track them. And this is a concept that is used in the bottle bill, and it's one that we thought fit here. Most producers would fall within the brand ownership prong of that definition, which is number 1. But we wanted to limit the importation piece to circumstances where there is a sole entity that imports into the state. One of the possible problems with having multiple importers is that they would be very difficult to track. And we've had that experience with some of the other programs like e-waste. If there are multiple importers, then each of the brands would be tracked under number 1 rather than the importer itself. Readily recyclable in Q.
I'm sorry, may I ask a question?
Yes, Ms. Clark, we'll pause for a second.
Sorry, I was slow in my hand. Just so I'm understanding what I'm looking at, I see that I see the language that's removed or changed. The bit that was highlighted about is the sole entity that. So that's new language, it's just underscored because it's sort of double underscored, is that what I'm reading?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
So where it's
Yes.
highlighted, that is new language, even though it shows.
That's right. It is underscored, but it's double
I
underscored.
thought so, but I wanted to just double check. Thank you.
Yes. Q, the readily recyclable definition, that is one that we have moved into rulemaking rather than putting the detail in the definition here. Similar municipalities, the same situation where we have moved that into rulemaking rather than putting the detail. V is a definition of Universal Product Code, or UPC, since that is a term that is used later in the narrative in terms of tracking of products. Section 3, selection of stewardship organization. There earlier had been a date, May 1st of 2022. We've removed the date and have keyed the timing, as I mentioned before, off the rulemaking, which would be required to be initiated by the end of 2022. We also had a concern that in the original bill, the selection of the stewardship organization was going to happen before the rules were adopted. We did have concern with that and felt much more comfortable with having that rulemaking process behind us, having the rules completed so that everyone knew what the program looked like before bringing on a stewardship organization. This next piece, the language in the bill referenced financially challenged or otherwise disadvantaged municipalities or communities. We had some concern about defining what that actually meant. We really weren't sure how we would be able to deal with that language in practical terms and identify those municipalities. Although we don't disagree that those municipalities should be treated equitably and be participants in this program, we were concerned about the phrasing and the lack of definition. So that's been changed to all participating municipalities. Paragraph 7, we deleted language about representative audits of materials. That is another piece that's been moved to rulemaking. There was a lot of detail about audits that we felt much more comfortable addressing in the rulemaking provision. This continues that audit language on the next page. A new paragraph 7 is where the needs assessment language was placed. So this is something that we would ask the bidders in the stewardship organization selection process to address, how such a recycling needs assessment would be conducted. And ultimately, we would expect them and include in the contract that they would conduct such a needs assessment. The next yellow highlight is just a reference to the timing of the needs assessment and stating that it must be within a reasonable time frame. Producer compliance information in 4B is where the concept of the Universal Product Code tracking is laid out. in earlier drafts and in the original bill, it talked about brands. And I know that we heard quite a lot of concern on the part of retailers in particular that tracking brands was going to be extremely difficult. And they did not know how that was going to happen. As I mentioned before, the bottle bill uses UPCs, and we felt that it was a good fit here and should help retailers in that tracking exercise. I think it'll be easier for the department as well. Paragraph D is a piece that was in last year's bill, last session's bill, that we carried over into this piece to address a producer concern that we heard, that there was concern that if packaging material was found not to comply with the requirements of the program, that producers were concerned that all of their products might be swept into that, and they would not be able to distribute or sell other products. This piece is intended to make it clear that other products that are in compliance with the program would be allowed, and it would not sweep in all of the products from a particular producer necessarily. Annual reporting by the stewardship organization. This is another piece where we would address that issue, the timing and the type of reporting by the stewardship organization in rule. There are several references on this page and in other locations to amount. Earlier, the draft had talked about weight, and actually the bill from last year referenced weight. In thinking about this further, we thought that including amount, giving it as examples, weight and volume, might be more appropriate. We don't know all of the types of materials and how they might be handled that might be involved in the program, and so we left that option open. Weight and volume. Some of these are just changing cross references to different portions of the bill. M is an addition requiring an estimate of the annual greenhouse gas emission effects of the program. We haven't specifically defined what that would look like yet, but that is a piece that we would do additional work on, but did feel that it was important to include some evaluation in the greenhouse gas realm within this program. The producer payment section starts at the bottom of this page. Most of the detail, this was a very detailed section that we believed should be dealt with in rulemaking rather than in the statutory language. Again, reporting, I had mentioned that on the previous page, annual reporting by producers. This is something that would be addressed in detail in rule. Paragraph 10, municipal reimbursements. This language was deleted, and per capita payments associated with packaging material disposed of by participating municipalities. In this location and in a couple of other locations later on in the amendment, we have removed reference to reimbursement for disposal. And we've realigned the language having to do with handling of recyclable materials, readily recyclable and not readily recyclable. So we're looking at a situation where municipal reimbursement would be made for all of that, except for the actual disposal of materials in a landfill. This is an issue that came up several times. Interested parties have raised this issue. There were concerns about payments for disposal and the effect that might have on the system itself. So those references have been removed. At the top,
Clark, can we pause for a second? Senator Bennett has a question.
Yeah, could you provide a little bit more commentary rather than just interested parties were concerned? This to me is a dramatic reshaping of this bill that the producers would be no longer responsible for any costs of landfilling material that is not recyclable that they're producing.
The concerns that that I recall principally are those from the proponents of 1471. There was a specific concern around payment for disposal. I think part of the rationale that was put forward was that it would somehow hinder or discourage recycling, and that recycling rates would be more robust if the payment did not occur for disposal.
So but this is your amendment, so you accepted those arguments as valid?
Yes.
So you don't think that municipalities ought to be reimbursed for packaging disposal that they can't recycle, and they have to go into the landfill, notwithstanding the fact that they didn't actually design the packaging and make it non-recyclable?
The system would, I mean, the way it's presented right now, it would allow reimbursement for everything up to the actual disposal of the material. So I think that the rule that would come from this would look at all of the handling, the collection, the transportation, those types of things, but would stop at disposal. I understand the point.
She froze.
Well, while she's frozen, I agree. Oh, yeah, I think
back.
she's unfrozen. Okay.
Sorry.
You froze for a second there mid-thought.
Okay. So it's, you know, it's certainly a policy choice to be made. You know, ultimately, it's what we determined we would put forward in the amendment, but I certainly understand and appreciate completely the points that you're raising.
Thank you. And I won't belabor this now. I'll circle back to it later because I have specific thoughts about this, but I really think this is a major change to the bill. And one of the reasons I was supporting it is and the lead co-sponsor of the bill was because of that being part of the mechanism of holding producers responsible. But we'll circle back to that. Thank you.
In A2, we've struck and aggregated. The information that's referenced pursuant to section 2145 is recycling information that we're now able to collect. Recycling establishments are required to provide that to the department. And its utility is really linked to the fact that it is not aggregated. And so we struck that phrase for that reason. Section 11, investments in education and infrastructure. This is another case where we've moved the bulk of that to rulemaking and would like to work out those details in rulemaking. What we've retained is at the end here. An intro paragraph and A, B, and C. D on this page is another location where the financially challenged and otherwise disadvantaged municipality language appeared. And we made an adjustment here that was a little bit different. We referenced all participating municipalities, in particular, those communities that have received minimal or no funding prior pursuant to this paragraph. This begins section 13. This is the piece where rulemaking is discussed and fees in general and reporting. The beginning paragraph, this language is new, and this puts some additional process around the rulemaking. We've added that the department specifically shall solicit input from interested persons, and that we must provide at least 30 days for public comment, and we must hold a public hearing in accordance with Title V. A begins the list of subject matter where we would be required to go to rulemaking. A lot of this is carried over from the body of the bill, references to those individual topics.
Senator, before you ask your question, oh, Ms. Clark is back. Okay. Ms. Clark, before you keep going, Senator Bennett has a question for you.
Sorry, it seems that whenever I raise my hand, you freeze.
I'm sorry, I froze again. Yeah, I keep getting a little message that my internet connection is unstable, so my apologies for that.
There's a lot of things unstable these days, and I hope it just stays that for you. Thank you. On this A1, what is the effect of removing the flat fee option for low volume producers? Is that carried elsewhere, handled elsewhere?
Yes, it is. It is elsewhere.
Okay. Thank you.
The payment schedule is referenced in 1B. C talks generally about the eco-modulation factors that have come up in previous discussions. Again, rather than a lot of detail about that, we have included generally the line that says criteria should provide incentives for the following with respect to packaging material. So it talks about the use of recycled content, lower toxicity, reduction, reuse, et cetera. Producer reporting in D. There's a lengthy piece about payments. Again, there's reference to tracking of products by UPC. much of this is conceptually carried over from the body. The same with municipal reimbursements. This is another area of rulemaking. With generalized language. Number 6, the audit language shows up here. Number 7 deals with reporting by the stewardship organization. Number 7 would address the stewardship's handling of proposed expenditures in investments and education. In B, we eliminated the word actual. There is a difference between costs and actual costs, and our expectation is that it will require a certain number of staff to administer this program. And rather than track individually time spent on this program, which is certainly appropriate in some circumstances. If you're using, a portion of an FTE on different programs. In this case, I think it will be pretty clear that we're going to need, a defined number of FTEs to conduct this. And so we have eliminated actual cost for that reason. In D, this is the piece dealing with federally regulated product, including drugs. So this is a new piece, and it would require that the department review this list 1 through 4. This is the list that appeared in 1471. In the exemption provision. So the last paragraph, the department shall consider, among other factors, which, if any, of the federally regulated products are required to conform to specific packaging content or construction standards that may preclude or significantly diminish the producer's ability to modify packaging to increase recyclability or reduce volume. If product packaging is identified that may appropriately be excluded from the definition of packaging material, the department will initiate rulemaking to exclude that packaging. So
I have a question for you here. So can you give me some examples under 4 of what would be included? Is this like packaging for pesticides, for example?
Yes, I think that number 4 is a reference to that, yes. We've not completely looked into the detail of all of these. I don't think that it is limited to pesticides. I think it may be broader than that. We do know that number 1, by way of example, is very broad, and it includes a lot of things like personal care products. It's not, the reference to drugs is not limited to pharmaceuticals. It's much broader than that. And that is one of the reasons that we felt it was appropriate to evaluate these individually, because they are quite complex and the scope is pretty broad.
So this would be something that's determined under rulemaking?
Yes, that's the way we've laid it out. We thought that it was an appropriate compromise, I think. We were somewhat concerned about including it because we know that it's very broad in scope. We certainly appreciate some of the arguments that were made around that. So we didn't want to include it completely as an exemption, but on the other hand, we recognized that there may be some products that are appropriately excluded from this program, and we didn't want to simply move past that without taking a closer look and evaluating what those might be. And in attempting to put some bounds around this, the language in the last paragraph was intended to suggest that there may be situations where packaging is mandated, specific types of packaging may be mandated for certain products that would not allow a producer much latitude with regard to including recycled content or reducing the volume of packaging. And it's those things specifically that we were looking to try to identify, if in fact, they exist.
So for a little more clarity on one, when you're talking about this sort of broad category of personal care products, I'm assuming you're talking about over-the-counter drugs like acetaminophen or something like that, the bottle that it comes in. But are we also talking about like toothbrushes and toothpaste?
Yes.
Too?
No, I don't have a list. Sorry, I don't have a specific list in front of me. I might be able to find one in a minute, but within these categories, we're aware that things like shampoo bottles, certain household cleaners, soaps, toothpaste, those types of things are all included in one of these exemptions. Number one is quite broad. Number two, the definition of medical device can include such things as Band-Aids. So again, I don't have a comprehensive list in front of me. I think we still have a little more work to do, but I certainly could provide some additional examples of those things that we believe fall within these categories.
I think what gives me pause about this section is that these are a lot of products that are made by some companies that I feel like could potentially afford to contribute to this program, and that I would like to see move in the direction of using more sustainable packaging. So I'd like us to maybe come back to this section. Senator Bennett has a question.
I do. I share your concerns, and more, again, it's sort of underlying this whole approach for me is this notion that the costs of disposal of packaging are going to be reflected not in our property tax bills, but in the production of those items to begin with, because I believe that the corporations, particularly these large corporations that are making Tampax and toothbrushes, Procter & Gamble, et cetera, they are in a very good position to design in a lot of efficiencies in their packaging, and to, eventually as this program expands, I mean, I think it's going to be a lot of push for that, and they're among the best people to focus on this. And I'm a little puzzled why we should even consider exempting some of these packages in that case. I mean, what's the underlying rationale, Ms. Clark, for doing that, given the overall purpose of the bill?
I absolutely agree with you about much of the packaging for those types of products. There's no question. And in large part, that is the reason that we included this. I think we were concerned that there might be a subset of products within some of these categories that truly were products that required a specialized packaging where there was no flexibility to redesign. There may be some of those in these categories. We were not in a position to be able to sort through all of that right now and make that determination. But that could be the case. Number 4, for instance, perhaps there is a pesticide or something that falls within the poison category that that must be packaged in a particular way, and there isn't much latitude.
Well,
if that's the case, we would like to identify those.
Well, even if that is the case, I don't understand why they shouldn't bear the cost. Why municipal property taxpayers should be bearing the cost instead of them, because it's even more of an embedded cost in their product, right? Because that they're just passing along to the property taxpayer.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that I don't get. But we can circle back to this one too. It just seems to me and I guess just one last question on that before we leave it. So am I reading your last paragraph there correctly, that although the department under your rulemaking will be able to look at each of these categories, that you would not be regulating it on a category basis, you'd be regulating on a product level basis? Is that right?
Yeah, I think what we have here are 4 to greater or lesser extents, but they're all broad categories.
Yeah.
And the proposal, in 1471 was to just exempt them all. And we would be looking to limit that, to pick it apart a bit and look at individual products that may or may not be appropriate for an exemption based on this type of evaluation.
Okay, individual products then.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Or there might be subcategories of products.
All right.
Representative O'Connor has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Clark. So my understanding was that the packaging is under federal jurisdiction, and I'm not sure how you're going to get around that. It seems like this would also pass on costs to the consumers purchasing those products in the end. Could you clarify that for me, please?
Well, I think that there are certainly the drugs are under federal regulation. If you look at something like a drug take-back program, the focus is on the drugs, not the packaging. The packaging is something that is typically disposed with the drugs because they don't take it apart. But nevertheless, packaging for any of these things really, for something like an over-the-counter drug, the packaging requirement on the federal level might be something as simple as a tamper-resistant cap. It may not have to do with the bulk of the packaging. It may require a particular little tab on the cap. Or a specialized type of cap or a foil cover, something like that. May not have anything to do with the bottle or the cardboard box that it comes in. So I think they're all a little bit different, and there are different federal requirements for different products. And some of that has to do with packaging, but not all of it. So I think that in part is what led us to thinking, well, this is these categories are very broad. There are lots of different situations at play here. To do it justice, we really should take a closer look at them individually. Should I move on?
Yes, please.
Okay. In E, there is a reference to litter. And one of the, I don't remember if I mentioned it earlier, but one of the eliminations that we made was in payment for litter audits. And so there were several locations in the amendment where we removed the reference to litter. Although we certainly agree that it is a problem, it's a problem for all of us on the state level, on the municipal level. We really felt that it wasn't the specific focus of this program. It might be something we'd come back to at a future point in time and add on. But in order to maintain the focus on handling the packaging and recycling, we are proposing to remove the litter provisions from the bill at this point.
One second, Senator Bennett has a question.
Yeah, I find this one really troubling because I noted earlier as you were going through, there were 3 prior areas where the littering audit was removed or references to understanding litter. I think one of the most important parts of this bill is the information that we will get from actually tracking all of this. It's going to be for the first time. And when I go to my local transfer station, people, they want to know what, they ask me all kinds of questions I can't even get answers to, don't know, we don't even have the answers to these questions about, the packaging and all of that. I think litter is a really important part of the informational base on which we will be making future policy decisions. I don't quite understand. I mean, you said it's not the focus of this, not the focus of it because it's removed. We can make it a focus of it. I don't think it's the principal driver, but there's a lot of stuff here. I mean, providing possible breaks for, toothbrush makers is not a focus of this either, but they get accommodated. I think this litter, I'd like to revisit this with the committee, but if you could, Ms. Clark, give me a little bit better understanding of why we shouldn't be tracking our litter. I think it's not a difficult thing to do. And I think the informational value alone would be helpful.
Mm-hmm. I certainly don't disagree that information about litter is useful. I think it is. One of the other things that we considered was the fact that I don't have the information at my fingertips, but I know that department staff is certainly aware of NGOs that have done litter audits. And there is some data available through those audits. We felt that given that there is that data exists, and it may not be as comprehensive as people would like it to be. I haven't looked at it, but I understand that there is some. But given that there is some data, and this would be money that could be spent on other aspects of this program, and I don't have a specific number on how much it would cost to deal with the litter aspect of this, but there is the litter audit. There was also reimbursement to the municipalities for litter management, a couple of other references to litter. So in its totality, we felt that it was money that could be spent on other aspects of the program, such as the infrastructure development aspect. It certainly is a policy choice. I don't disagree that it's useful information, but that was simply the choice that we made as we were looking at the amendment.
All right. Are we on to the?
And finally, this is where the requirement to initiate rulemaking appears on December 31, 2022. And I went back to the previous page. That is where we made the change. Rather than beginning February 15, 2023, we bumped that out to 24 to line up with the other schedules and timeframes in the bill. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any other questions if you have them.
All right, let's go ahead and end the screen share. I think I can do that. There we go. Representative Bloom has a question.
Thank you, Senator Brenner. Back to section 5M. Let me just pull it up here. Page 7, I believe. I'm finding it myself. The addition of M, this is a requirement. In this section, we're saying this is the requirement of annual reporting by the stewardship organization. And M, an estimate of annual greenhouse gas emission effects of the packaging stewardship program in Maine. What are you using as a measure? How do you measure that? What is that? Where is that coming from?
As I mentioned before, we haven't really defined the details of what that would look like, but I could envision that what we would be measuring are things like a measure of greenhouse gas emissions as a baseline, perhaps at the beginning. When you look at such things as the collection and transportation of waste, both to disposal and to recycling facilities, and how that might change over time when the packaging program is in place. I mean, as we know, the goals of this program are to increase recycling, to decrease disposal, and to enhance our infrastructure to allow that recycling to increase. So as those changes take place over time, I think that, we would hope to see an improvement in that assessment of greenhouse gas emissions as we are recycling more and disposing less, and as the amount of packaging material decreases, there would be less transportation, less incineration, less landfilling. So in very broad terms, that's what we're looking at.
Well, it's very open-ended and kind of vague, but I hope that the DEP will use their chosen way of measuring greenhouse gas emission effects, not industries, is what I'm getting at, I guess. So it's vague, but it could be interpreted in different ways. So I didn't know if you wanted to say greenhouse gas emission effects as determined by the DEP. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm saying, Paul?
I do.
Okay.
Now, I think, because of the placement of this is an annual report by the stewardship organization.
Right.
And so it would be something that was coming from them. I think what we would look to do is to put some definition around what our expectation would be of them. And
so that'll come from you.
It would come from us ultimately. And I can tell you too, that we would, certainly seek the advice and the participation of our own climate people internally in looking at this particular aspect of greenhouse emission effects.
All right. Well, thank you very much. That satisfies me. Thank you.
Representative O'Connor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So going through all of this, this seems particularly onerous to me, to the Retail Association, not to mention other organizations, that it will eventually raise the cost of all goods and services on the consumers, because that's always the way that these things go. But most particularly, it seems like this would affect the Retail Association here in Maine, especially. And I'm wondering, was Curtis Picard involved with negotiating this amendment? And I'd really like to hear from him on this, if possible, if he's here today. I haven't even looked.
Yes, Mr. Picard is here. Before we bring him in, I'd like to finish questions for Ms. Clark, and then I'd like to hear from the sponsor.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Tucker.
Thank you. I just wanted to go over procedurally where we are. I made a motion ought to pass as amended. We've now gone through the amendment. So I want to just clarify that my motion is for the original bill as amended in writing by the amendments we just went through. Now, as the committee moves into a discussion of, well, what about this and what about that? And there's 1,000 little threads that we can start pulling at. Not to get confused, because if any member of the committee has a specific change that they want, I will be turning to the sponsor, Nicole Grohowski, to see what her reaction is and whether or not such a change should be made to amend the amendment. So I just wanted, as the discussion ebbs and flows back and forth, that's the procedural situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Tucker. Representative Grohowski. Yes, Senator Bennett.
I'm sorry, because I seconded the motion, I just wanted to, I think I'm in total agreement with the motion as expressed by Representative Tucker. I just want to make sure. So what the motion is ought to pass as amended, and the amendment is that we're considering further possible changes to would be the document, the DEP proposed amendment. Is that correct? Is that your understanding, Representative Tucker?
Yes, that's correct. That's, if we voted right now, we would be voting for the original bill as amended by the bill we just went through with those yellow changes.
Which is,
I just want to keep that very clear, that if we talk about, well, what about this? What about this? What about trash? What about litter? What about blah, 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 blah? Let's not forget that that's what we're going to come back to.
Very good. Thank you. Thanks for that clarity.
All right, Representative Grohowski, I would like to hear from you about your thoughts on the amendment and the process.
Thank you so much. Just to introduce myself, I'm Representative Nicole Grohowski. I serve House District 132, the citizens of Ellsworth and Trenton. Thank you very much for having me this morning. I've really appreciated the conversation so far. I don't want to take a lot of time, but I would say I really appreciate the conversations with the DEP and the executive branch in general to get us to this point. I think we really tried to discuss every single change and the merits of it. And there are some things that really truly are a compromise. I think it's been said that A good bill is when nobody is 100% happy. I think that is what we're looking at now. So I do want to thank Paula in particular for helping me understand every portion of the changes that they proposed. Specifically, I want to mention a few items that I think are being handled in an improved way from the original bill I presented. The first of which was a more robust rulemaking process. We have added more time. We have added stakeholder engagements. There are required meetings as opposed to just written interaction where routine technical rulemaking does not necessarily specify that. So I just wanted to mention that because it was really important, I think, to the department and to myself to be responsive to some of what we heard in the testimony about producers and the people managing these programs all coming to the table together and really working out the detail and rules. And I think that this, what I'm calling robust routine technical rulemaking, is really appropriate. And so I think, I hope the committee will agree on that. I know that there was a long discussion about the exemptions for those 4 different sort of federal CFR code groupings. And I appreciate the committee's concern about that. I also was concerned that if we just took whole classes of products and exempted them, that there were a number of products, like you heard, Band-Aids, toothbrushes, tampons, quite frankly, condoms, like it just, the amount of things that are grouped in under medical devices, for instance, is large. And a lot of the packaging is not at all specified by the federal government. So I think that this approach of putting in rules and taking a much closer look at which products would be possibly proper for exemption and having a second rulemaking happen about that is a really good solution to that question. And finally, I would want to mention the needs assessment. That was something that I know that supporters of the other bill really were interested in, and I appreciate the department flagging that it would be a good idea to determine what are our needs regarding recycling infrastructure around the state so that the investments can be made in really prudent ways. So I think that addition is also a really strong improvement to the bill. I don't want to belabor all this other specific details because you certainly have already looked through them, but if anyone has any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. And I think the process has been quite good, and I appreciate being able to work with the DEP on their amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions specifically for the sponsor? All right. Representative O'Connor, I'm going to bring Mr. Picard in so that you can take a moment to check in with him. Representative O'Connor, are you still with us?
Good morning, Senator Brenner, Representative Tucker.
Representative O'Connor, did you want to pose your question to Curtis Picard?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So, Mr. Picard, thank you for being with me, with all of us today. So my question was, this seems particularly onerous to the Retail Association. I didn't know if you had any input on this, if if you'd worked with this, and was this what you were looking for, and if I'm correct in that this would be onerous on the Retail Association of Maine.
Representative Connor, thank you for the question. Certainly not specifically to the Retail Association, but our individual retail members. I still have very significant concerns with that Section 4. I think the addition of UPC codes makes it even more problematic. And I urge you to not take my word for it. I would talk to the Board of Pesticides Control. Over in the Ag Committee, we recently worked on the pesticide fee bill for similar reasons. There is currently a 15-cent fee attached to the sale of pesticides in the state of Maine. And hopefully that bill was going to be repealed and replaced with some general fund funding for the program. But the big problem was knowing which products exactly the fee applied to. Even though there's a list of 12,500 products on the Board of Pesticides Control website, and we tried to put together a UPC list so that retailers could figure out which ones were and weren't applying to, that's proved to be problematic. And so now you're talking about hundreds of thousands of products. UPC codes are used and reused and recycled. So in my written testimony on both these bills, I did say that this section was probably our number one concern, and I would say it's still very much a concern. I'm happy to try to work on a solution of this, but I guess my overall concern is what is really going to be the burden on retailers to determine which products are or are not compliant, and if they're not compliant, what do they do? Do they have to take them off the shelves if they've already purchased them? What happens at that stage?
Senator Carney.
Thank you. I had my hand up for a question that I've decided I don't need to ask. I think it gets us too into the weeds, and it pertained to rulemaking. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions for Curtis Picard? All right, thanks for joining us. Senator Bennett.
Before he disappears into the wormhole, Mr. Picard, I don't know if you can still hear me, but I did just want to get a sense of, do you have a specific alternative that you would suggest to the use of the UPC codes, or could it be a hybridized kind of system?
Senator Bennett, thank you. I don't know yet. One of the things I've thought of in the last 24 hours, honestly, was the language we included on Friday in 1662, which is a retailer indemnification, which basically said the producers had to buy back material that was found to be non-compliant. I don't know if that would work in this situation, but I would say just my overall concern, knowing there's 9,000 different retailers in the state getting products from thousands and thousands of distributors, just knowing which products are not compliant I look at that as going to be a huge burden on retailers. So I'm trying to figure that out and trying to figure out the best way to make this work.
Representative Grochowski, did you perhaps have a response to that?
Thank you so much. And my apologies. My Zoom has crashed 4 times today, I believe, and not at all in the past 4 months. So my apologies. I disappeared right at the moment I offered to answer your questions. So if you have any, please don't hesitate. But you know, I want to recognize that I am not a retailer. I have worked in the retail sector. I don't know all the answers. I think that is why we're very interested in the robust rulemaking and the feedback that will come from that process. 2 things I'd like to note. First is there isn't evidence really that producers don't participate. So it is possible there could be a bad actor here and there, but that's not the case elsewhere in the world in the 40 plus jurisdictions where this is done. So to worry about that ultimate eventuality that is very unlikely would be a distraction from the real merits of this bill, I believe. Secondly, I am aware that it does take time to reprogram software, for instance, but I know that the state requires that retailers collect sales tax based on the specific item being sold. And that, I believe, is tied to the UPC. And I remember when I was a cashier at a grocery store, I had to know which departments were generally taxed. And if the item was one that was non-taxed, I had to put in a specific code. That's because that was the 90s. We've come a long way. And I believe that if UPC codes aren't the appropriate way to track this, I'm not sure what would be, but much of these systems are automated, and I want the retailers to feel comfortable with the program. But I think with time and adequate programming, this is possible. Again, it's being done elsewhere in the developed world.
Just to be in the weeds on the UPC thing for a minute, Curtis Picard, I mean, my understanding as a wholesaler of product where I need to have a UPC, there's a big database of UPCs there. I mean, it's a pretty sophisticated system. And when one gets retired, that's usually recorded. And when it gets brought back for another product, it's recorded in a database. So I'm not sure I understand how UPCs would be a problem. I actually think it's kind of a brilliant and very clean solution.
And I think you have to look at the diversity of retailers that are out there. If you're a large multi-state retailer, then yeah, they can probably make this work. But if you're a smaller retailer that doesn't necessarily rely on UPC codes, that's where my concern lies, is that step where the retailer is going to have to access this list of compliant and non-compliant UPC codes and figure out for themselves if they're allowed to sell that product. And then the other question I raised is, if they have a non-compliant product on their shelves that they've already paid for, what happens then? Are they out of, are they going to be out of pocket on that?
Paula Clark.
Thanks. I just wanted to add that there is a provision in here that requires the department to conduct outreach to retailers specifically to let them know of the information concerning compliance and any changes that might be made to it. And that was included, I think, specifically because, we recognize that not all retailers are equipped in the same way to deal with a program like this. And although there is a provision that says that retailers may not sell or offer for sale non-compliant products, our focus would certainly be on the producers. I mean, that's where our compliance energy would be. And we would make every effort to provide information to retailers so that they have the information they need to go forward. There's nothing in here specifically that speaks to the issue that you're talking about right now, Curtis, about, if it's on the shelf, what do they do? That's a separate issue. But I can tell you that as we've discussed this, our focus would be on providing information and outreach to retailers about compliance issues.
Are there any additional comments, questions for Curtis Picard? All right, thank you so much. Any further discussion? Yes, Senator Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I have, as I said, I have a few areas of concern about this bill. I'll start with the litter questions most recently described. I would really like to see us consider an amendment. I heard what Ms. Clark said about all of the litter references, but I don't want to lose track of of the great function that some form of a litter audit could provide informationally for the improvement of this program going forward. And maybe it's just in rule making. Maybe it's in that section there where we could restore something that would say that that you could create some rule making around the gathering of information relating to litter, and that would inform the program going forward. And I would ask if the department would be amenable to adding something like that in the section 13 of the bill. And I would take their advice on what specific language might be workable for informational purposes going forward.
I think that probably the appropriate location for that would be in paragraph, let's see, A6. is where it addresses audits in general and different facets of the auditing process.
On page 13?
Page 14.
Okay, yeah. Page 6.
Yeah, so there's a list, audits of recyclable materials, municipal solid waste. That strikes me as being the most appropriate place to put it.
Would you be amenable, I mean, would this change your view on whether your amendment should be passed if we added that language in there?
No.
Okay. I would like to propose that as an amendment. I don't know how to do that procedurally, Madam Chair, whether, we can look at whether you want a specific vote on that amendment or what?
We would need the we would need the person who put the motion forward, Representative Tucker, would need to accept it, I believe. You're muted, Representative.
I would like to pass these back to the sponsor to see if the sponsor wishes to incorporate it as a friendly amendment rather than as a hostile amendment.
Representative Krahowski.
Thank you. It is good to be friendly as much as possible. I am very interested in litter and what is in it and where it is coming from and how we can manage it. So I hear no concern from the department about just that one aspect of tracking litter. I think it's a great addition. And I thank the senator for his suggestion.
Representative Tucker. You're muted.
I just want to make sure that Dan has noted that change in the motion. He has? Is that a nod? Okay.
Yes, you're accepting that as a change?
Yes.
Okay.
And that was the second on the amendment. I don't know if it's the second needs to approve it as well, but I will. May I move on?
Please continue.
Yeah, I don't know if Representative Tucker had something further. So I also, I have a really big, I mean, if you get to something more substantive, I have a really great concern over this, as I said during the presentation, about relieving the producers from any sharing of the landfill costs at all. And this is a really significant change to this bill. And I would like to suggest that maybe there should be a sharing of costs, that, rather than just have, I understand the argument, right? The argument being that producers, if a municipality decides not to recycle, which hopefully they will be not making the decision because of the incentives here in this bill. But if a municipality decides to landfill items, and that's their decision, and why would a producer have to pay for that decision? I get that. But I think the fundamental part of this bill is to have the producers take responsibility for the disposal of their product that they create in packaging. So what I'm wondering if there might be a sort of a sharing of the load, maybe have a 50-50 split between municipalities and the producers in sharing the cost of landfilling that kind of product. And I'd really appreciate hearing what Representative Grahowski might have to say about that, as well as the department.
How about we hear first from Melanie Loisam?
Well, I would defer to the sponsor, certainly.
Okay, Representative Grahowski's, I think, otherwise absent for Zoom issues. So if for the sake of time, perhaps we'll let you go first.
Sure, certainly. I just wanted to note, I appreciate the reminder that is the sponsors bill as well as the co-sponsors bill. And the amendment that we've introduced this year would exclude reimbursement for landfilling, which is consistent with the amendment that the department similarly introduced to this committee last year. And last year, it was one of the elements of the department's recommendation that the committee chose ultimately not to include in the bill that was voted by the committee. So just wanted to note that comparison to last year's bill. This was a concept that we wanted to be consistent with from last year, as well as from a larger solid waste management policy perspective, also being consistent with trying to focus on investments that move us away from disposal. And so this seemed like an opportunity not to continue to keep the cost of disposal down for anyone, that it's an opportunity, like some other bills that you've all considered this session, to continue to bring some balance to those costs between disposal and recycling.
Representative, follow up.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to ask whether, Commissioner Loisem, you think that my suggestion of a 50-50 cost share on that would be workable?
I think that if you start to get into adding some quantitation to it, it may go into a level of detail that is the kind of calculations that we were proposing would be sorted out through rulemaking. And so I would just want to caution that however you want to try to construct that, I think maybe Paula Clark could speak to this better about how those kind of calculations might happen. But I just suggest that we haven't gotten into percentages and shares like that at this level of detail. So I don't want you to legislate something that runs contrary to what might otherwise be a productive outcome.
Representative Grochowski, would you mind chiming in with your thoughts around the landfill piece?
Thank you. And I am very sorry that I did miss part of the discussion. My speed test is very high. I don't know what's going on, but I think it's related to phones being out and other people's connections being unstable. But Senator Bennett is going to fix that with his bill in EUT, I understand. But to the point, I think what the challenge that municipalities face is that there are some items that no matter how robust a recycling program they have, the packaging just cannot be recycled. There is no way because of the construction of it and materials of it. And so I do understand the value of reimbursing municipalities for the cost of disposing of those items, because it's the same principle that we see throughout this policy, that those who cause the problem and cause the costs should be responsible for covering those costs and just really being responsible for what they create. So I'm worried that without, as I think about it more, and it's this discussion that's helped me with that, it does seem like a disincentive to get producers to create better packaging if they can never be responsible for the bad packaging, as we might call it, the non-recyclable packaging that they produce. So my suggestion would be to not maybe do a 50-50 or something that is more appropriate in rules, but to say that we would like the department to consider how to reimburse municipalities for packaging that cannot be managed through a recycling program. So if a municipality decides not to have a recycling program or a good one, then they don't get reimbursed when people throw out, number 2 milk jugs. But if they're throwing out flexible pouches that can never be recycled, that they do get reimbursed for that. And I would be comfortable leaving the details of that to the rulemaking. I think that would, from what I just heard, be the preference of the department. That would be my proposal. I would be interested to hear from the commissioner on that. And sorry, we didn't sort this one out sooner. It wasn't part of the regular conversation we were having about the bill, quite honestly.
Commissioner Joseph, did you want to respond?
Sure, thank you. I think if it is something as Representative Grahowski just described that provides the flexibility for the department to engage with stakeholders during the rulemaking process to figure out the details of how that would look in implementation, that would be fine.
Senator Bennett, did you have any follow-up?
You anticipate my every move, Madam Chair. Thank you. I would like to ask Representative Tucker if you would consider such a proposal in the rulemaking to be friendly, given the information that we've got to your motion.
Representative Tucker?
I would be glad to hear a friendly amendment formulated and articulated clearly by the sponsor.
Representative Grahowski?
Thank you. And I will do my best for your analyst, who I know is eminently capable of taking our thoughts and putting them in writing. But in subsection 13, which is the rules section, would be the right place for this. I'll be honest, I haven't just now determined where it should go, but would like to see the department determine the appropriate way to reimburse municipalities for the disposal costs or the costs associated with the disposal of non-readily recyclable materials.
Representative Tucker?
Thank you. That's fine.
Okay.
We'll make that change.
So we have 2 amendments to the amendment so far. Any other conversation? Yes, Senator Bennett.
I was just muted myself. Apologies, but there's another aspect of this that I'd like to, I've had some conversations with the sponsor about this, and I'd like her to speak publicly for this suggestion, but this is a significant new regime, and we're going to learn a lot in the early years of its implementation. And during that, I look at the $2 million revenue threshold for exemption, and have been thinking about perhaps in the first 3 years after the program is launched, that there be actually effectively raising that number from $2 million of revenue annually for an affected business to $5 million, so that during those initial 3 years, it would exempt effectively about, as I understand the numbers based on census information, about 20% of businesses that would otherwise get captured by the $2 million figure. They would be above that. So I would, and I sent this note off to Mr. Tartikoff early this morning to get his thoughts as to the practicability of an amendment like this and how it might be crafted. And he got back to me promptly with some good questions. And but I believe from my conversations with Representative Grahowski that she would find that possibly friendly, and I want to just confirm that and also just put it out to the whole committee to see what you all thought about doing that.
Representative Grahowski?
Thank you. And I think this was a really good innovation or brainchild that came recently. And so my apologies, it's not in the amendment you're looking at, but I do think that the way that I see it is it's a grace period for businesses with the revenue between 2 million and 5 million for a couple of years. And at that point, these smaller main businesses will get to see how this program operates and transition smoothly into it after that 3-year grace period. So I really appreciate the attention to the small businesses that Senator Bennett has brought with this amendment. And I believe when speaking with the executive branch, that is a priority for the executive branch, that our small businesses not be impacted adversely, and that certainly are multinational corporations that bear the majority of the responsibility for these packaging materials cover their costs as is appropriate. So I hope that this is in keeping with the goals that we have mutually agreed are important to us in this process.
Representative Tucker.
Yes, that's an acceptable, friendly amendment. Put it on the list.
All right. Senator Bennett, did you have anything else?
That pretty much takes care of my list. I appreciate that, and I do have one question. I see Commissioner Loy's there, and I presume, based on what I've heard from you and other members of the administration, that last amendment should be not objected to by the governor.
That is correct. Representative Grahowski did accurately convey one of the things that we have been talking about is that we want to ensure that this is not a program that has a detrimental effect on Maine small businesses. That is not an outcome that we would be able to get behind, and appreciate you all giving some thought to some additional exemptions to ensure that that impact may be mitigated.
I could just follow up with this question, which is, given the fact that this is basically the department's amendment and the 3 other pieces that we've just added are friendly to you, can we count on the governor, if this reaches her desk, to sign this?
Well, I can't make you any promises. And I also have learned that I can't guarantee what lands on her desk will look exactly like what you've just done. And so I'd leave the door open just in case things happen in between. But generally, this is consistent with the concepts that we've stood behind all along.
So not to put too much pressure, but I would like to just say, if the bill does not get further amended, and I know it always can, but as it's currently stands, do you think that she will be willing to sign it?
I think so. Again, can't make you any promises.
I think that might be as much as you'll get for your birthday for promises today. So
Listen, I got 3 amendments and a lot of fun with all of you. So thank you so much.
are there any other questions or comments? Any thoughts from the committee, conversation? All right, so we have a question on the floor, ought to pass as amended, with 3 additional items. One is related to litter. The second is related to landfilling and rulemaking. The third is related to the income limit being lifted to 5 million with a grace period, bringing it back down to 2 million. So I believe we are ready for a vote, Sabrina.
Okay. Senator Brenner.
Yes.
Representative Tucker.
Yes.
Senator Bennett.
Yes.
Representative Hanley.
No.
Senator Carney.
Yes.
Representative Bell.
Yes.
Representative Bloom.
Yes.
Representative Dudera.
Yes.
Representative Gramlich. Absent. Representative Johansson.
No.
Representative O'Connor.
No.
Representative Toole. Absent. Representative Ziegler.
Yes.
8 yes, 3 no, 2 absent.
All right. And the minority report?
Not to pass.
Thank you. All right, and with that, I believe we can thank the bill sponsor, Representative Grochowski, for bringing this forward. Nice work. And we will close the work session on LD 15. Gosh, what number are we on? I'm so sorry. I'm having a
1541, but I think we were doing work sessions on both bills, were we not, Madam Chair?
right. So we're going to close our portion on 1541 and we're going to open a discussion about 1471. Yes, Dan.
I just was hoping to get approval from those members on the majority report on that last vote to work with the DEP as necessary in implementing those changes to the amendment. I reviewed the amendment over the weekend and there was a number of, I believe, largely technical tweaks I would want to make. If anything, questions come up, it would be great to be able to run it by them.
Yes, please. Okay, so let's open up a discussion about 1471, an act to establish a stewardship program for packaging. This is Senator Dill's bill. Representative Ziegler, do you have a motion?
Ought not to pass.
Is there a second?
Second.
Representative Bloom has a second. Is there any discussion? All right, and with that, we have a question on the floor, ought not to pass.
Okay. Senator Brenner.
Yes.
Representative Tucker.
You might have to circle back
Yes.
around to him. Oh, there he is. Representative Tucker, you'll need to turn your camera on to vote.
It is. It's not working right. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We just can't see your beautiful smile.
I'll have to vote absentee, I guess.
Okay, we can circle back around. Maybe it will start functioning.
Senator Bennett.
I got to try to get in again.
Okay.
Senator Bennett.
Yes.
Representative Hanley.
No.
Senator Carney.
Yes.
Representative Bell.
Yes.
Representative Bloom.
Yes.
Representative Dudera.
Yes.
Representative Gramlich. Absent. Representative Johansson.
No.
Representative O'Connor.
No.
Representative Toole. Absent. Representative Ziegler.
Yes.
7 yes, 3 no, 3 absent.
And is there a minority report for that vote?
Ought to pass.
Great, thank you. Anything else you need, Dan, for that one? Okay. So with that, we'll close the work sessions 1471. And we will move on to a work session for 163 and for 1532. Dan, whenever you're ready, you could walk us through 163.
Sure. So I sent you out an analysis for 163, as well as an updated proposed amendment from Senator Carney. If you'll recall, the bill is a concept draft, and we had a public hearing on a proposed amendment that was related to the oil tank emission report that the committee received in January. So as I've noted, the sponsor proposed adding to the prior amendment requirements regarding fence line monitoring and collection of fence line monitoring data. This was a change that was advocated by a number of other proponents, both in this hearing and in the 1532 hearing. I'm not going to go through all the specific changes in my analysis suggested by DEP, but I have sort of laid out, because the testimony from DEP was so detailed, the specific recommendations, or a note that there was no specific changes suggested to all the provisions of the bill by DEP. And then finally, I've noted here that there was a markup of the proposed amendment that was submitted by the Maine Better Transportation Association, that they proposed to address concerns, specific concerns that they noted in their testimony. I can answer any questions about that analysis if you have them.
I think what might be helpful is if perhaps this was a committee bill, but Senator Carney worked diligently on it. If perhaps Senator Carney, you could walk us through 163's amendments.
Thank you very much. I will. And let's see, I'll probably take it, just trying to decide which version I'll go with. I think I'll start with the version. Dan, did you provide the committee with the updates that you did, I think probably in the middle of the night last night at my request? And also many thanks.
There was one last change you mentioned this morning, and I incorporated that, and that's the one I just sent out.
Great, thank you. Then I'll walk through the one that committee members just recently received. So I want to start by thanking the department for all of the suggestions that were made. I thought that a lot of them clarified and more concisely expressed what should be in the bill. And I just want to express a lot of appreciation for that. I think what I will do is just note where I incorporated the department suggestions and then highlight the differences. And so I think if you look at on page 2, the shaded areas are the changes from the document that everyone looked at on Friday. The department suggested kind of tightening up of the language regarding insulating the heated fixed roof tanks, and those were incorporated in paragraph 3. If you move down to paragraph 5, this was the subject of some discussion. The original proposal was that the site-specific data be collected quarterly. The department suggested as an alternative annually, because there is some fluctuation in operations. It is my understanding that the heated tanks, which are the heated above ground tanks that are large and are used for things like asphalt, they are in operation, I believe, from like April until November. And so the change would be, rather than going with the annual testing, just one data point per year that the department suggested, the modification on that language is that those tanks would be tested twice annually during the most active time of operations, so that we have 2 data points to really understand what the emissions are. And also included language saying that where there are multiple tanks that are operated in a similar manner, that the company, a facility, could just test one of those similarly functioning tanks. And so that reduces the burden for testing, but has a kind of a guidelines or guardrails to make sure that the data is accurate, because the similar tanks are being only similar tanks are subject to that requirement that not every tank be tested. That in paragraph 6, the department helpfully pointed out that there could be a problem with internal use of photoionization or flame ionization detection technology causing explosions. I parenthetically think that that is consistent with our concern that these tanks are, the floating roof tanks are leaking harmful substances, because there wouldn't be that risk of explosion if there weren't concerns about leaking. And so the change in paragraph 6 is simply to indicate that those types of technology, when they're used for testing, would be an external leak detection rather than internal between the floating roof and the fixed roof. There was a lot of debate about odor control. And so paragraph 7 in the version that the committee looked at on Friday has been stricken in its entirety. And a new paragraph 7 has been introduced that relates to the fence line monitoring requirement. I have become persuaded over the 2+ years that I've been following the air quality problems, particularly in South Portland, and dealing with these issues in a number of different ways, that this fence line monitoring is extraordinarily important for us to incorporate in Maine's statute, in Maine's regulatory regime. And I just want to draw the committee's attention to a couple of different things. One is the testimony, particularly by citizen scientist Tom McCulka on Friday, about the relative ease which with the fence line monitoring can occur. And then second, and the relative inexpense of it actually. And then secondly, the fact that this fence line monitoring is something that has already been established and is being applied by the EPA with regard to other types of facilities, namely refineries. And in fact, several years ago, the EPA proposed using this fence line monitoring and requiring it as an alternative to direct measurements of emissions in other types of facilities, including the types of facilities that we have located here in South Portland and then up in the Hampden and other areas of Maine. And that proposed regulation never went through, but the language, and I'll read directly from the EPA's proposed rulemaking. The EPA talks about fence line monitoring as being an advancement in monitoring practice because of the significant quantities of HAP emissions from these types of oil, of petroleum operations that are, quote, fugitive in nature and impractical to directly measure. And that's kind of exactly what we're dealing with in South Portland in particular, with regard to oil storage tanks that have the, let me go back to here, that have the external or internal floating roofs. They are, unlike the fixed roof tanks, they are very hard to do direct measurements. And so the fence line monitoring will allow us to better establish what the emissions are from those facilities. And, you know, the EPA proposed regulation talked about the effectiveness in this technology in determining HAPs. And we know that there are concerns based on the testing that the DEP has done in South Portland, that there are concerns about elevated levels of benzene above the ambient air quality standards. And so it's really important, I think, for us to understand what is being emitted. And fortunately, we do have this technology, the fence line monitoring, that will enable us to do it. And so I've incorporated that in paragraph 7 in lieu of the odor detection issues. And happy to answer questions about that, but I think I'll just continue going through the document for completeness. The modifications to paragraph B were, you know, among those other very helpful suggestions by the DEP. And then if you flip over to page 4, Again, mostly very helpful suggestions by the DEP, with the exception of paragraph 2, which has been converted from relating to odor control to relating to the fence line monitoring program. And then oh, excuse me. Paragraph 2 was modified to omit references to odor. And then if you flip over to page 5, paragraph 5, that's where there's a report out required related to the fence line monitoring. And then I simplified the last paragraph in the draft we were looking at Friday, just to streamline it, because the DEP did indicate that a lot of the information had already been subject to a more in-depth report. And then finally, I did just want to address, when we were talking about the extended producer responsibility, I thought it was really helpful that Representative Grahowski had a date by which rulemaking would be undertaken. And I would like to consider adding a rulemaking date, a date for initiating rulemaking in 163 as well. So that's the information I have. Happy to answer questions.
Thank you so much, Senator Carney. Are there any questions for Senator Carney? Yes, Representative Hanley.
Yes, thank you, Senator. Senator Carney, thank you. In drafting the amendment, did you have any of the opponents to this legislation? Were they questioned or asked for their input on your amendment?
So I considered the information they provided Friday in response to the original version. And, you know, with all due respect to their perspective, I think that we are in this really unique position of having, you know, there have been proven violations of the air quality requirements in South Portland, and we really need to address them. And so I took those into consideration, but my priority in focusing on this legislation was really in improving air quality monitoring and getting us on a path where we can really reduce the harmful substances.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Representative Tucker.
I was blacked out for a short period there. Is there a motion on the floor?
There is not a motion on the floor.
I move ought to pass as amended in the description by Senator Carney just now on LD on 163.
Would you like to also add the part about the date for rulemaking?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
I would like to second the motion.
Senator Carney's second. Any further discussion?
Could I propose a date for the rulemaking?
Yes, please.
I would like to propose December 31, 2021 as the date by which rulemaking needs to be initiated. I think that I would like to hear from the department, but I think that this is a topic that the department is very familiar with and has been working pretty diligently on for a number of years. And it would make sense to me to keep that momentum going.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Yes, Senator Bennett.
Yeah, I think there was a question embedded there as well to the department about the workability of 12/31/2021.
Jeff Crawford
Good morning.
is here. Welcome.
All right. Good morning, Senator Brenner, Representative Tucker, members of the committee. I'm Jeff Crawford, Bureau of Air Quality. I believe that the department, if this bill were enacted, could meet a December 31st, 2021 timeframe.
Great. Any additional comments? All right, I believe we're ready for a vote.
Senator Brenner,
Yes.
Representative Tucker,
Yes.
Senator Bennett,
Yes.
Representative Hanley,
No.
Senator Carney,
Yes.
Representative Bell,
Yes.
Representative Bloom,
Yes.
Representative Dudera,
Yes.
Representative Gramlich,
Yes.
Representative Johansson, absent. Representative O'Connor,
No.
Representative Toole, absent. Representative Ziegler,
Yes.
9 yes, 2 no, 2 absent.
All right. And the minority report?
Not to pass.
Representative Tucker?
Is it agreeable to have me cast my missing vote when I got blacked out for 1471, or is that something I should go through the presiding officer and register? I didn't know what the rule was about being absent and then coming back.
Dan, do you have a thought about that?
That's set out in the joint rules, so they're legislative rules, which are the committee's prerogative to determine. So I wouldn't have an issue if you wanted to change that.
Is the committee comfortable with Representative Tucker casting his vote on 1471? The motion was ought not to pass.
Okay, Sabrina, I'm going to vote yes. Thank you very much. I appreciate your consideration.
Okay, and with that, let's move on to 1532, which was Representative Morales's bill, an act to protect Maine's air quality by strengthening requirements for air emissions licensing. It's my intention that we carry this bill over so that we have it to think about next year, and perhaps there will be a need for it, and perhaps there won't, based on some potential outcomes from LD 163. Representative Tucker?
I move that we carry over that bill. Thank you.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All right, we can go ahead and vote to carry over. I think this is just a show of hands.
I have 11 and no one opposed.
Correct. All right, and with that, we'll close the work session on LD 1532, and we're on to our concept drafts.
Very, very quickly, the rationale for carrying over 1532 is to allow further discussion. Is that the idea?
Further time and further discussion. Thank you, Dan. All right, so now we move on to concept drafts. The first one is LD 259, an act to improve solid waste management. This was put forward by Representative McDonald. I would like to, Representative McDonald is here. Bring her over. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Nice to see everybody. So Senator Brenner, Representative Tucker, and distinguished members of the Joint Standing Committee on Environment and Natural Resources, I'm here to briefly discuss LD 259, which is a concept draft, and I'm going to recommend that committee ought not to pass. I introduced this bill in response to the plastic spill in Searsport that happened very close to closure last year. I am following the ongoing conversations between SPRAG and DEP, and although some legislation may help this process in the future, I'd like to see the outcome of that particular event first. So at this time, legislation is not necessary. Thank you.
Representative McDonald, I have a question for you. We had an idea perhaps to carry your bill over. Would that be amenable?
Yes, I didn't expect you to be willing to do that. That would be fantastic.
Is today your birthday?
It's not.
All right.
But I got a unanimous vote out of criminal justice earlier, so I'm feeling like it could be.
Would anyone entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to carry over.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Representative Gramlich, and then a second by Representative Bloom. I'll tell you my rationale for carrying this over. I think it would be nice for us to have a holding place in case there's some work that we need to do between now and next winter. And so I'd like to carry your bill over, Representative McDonald, and perhaps have it as a vehicle for something we might need to do.
Thank you so much.
Any discussion? All right, let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor? Okay, that's unanimous, Dan, of those present. Thank you, Representative McDonald.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. All right. And with that, we'll close the work session on 259 and we open up a work session on 387, which is an act to reduce the amount of waste going into landfills by Representative Alley. Yes, Representative Tucker.
I move that LD 387 ought not to pass.
Is there a second?
Second.
Representative Ziegler's a second. Any discussion? All right, we're ready for the vote. Sabrina.
Senator Brenner.
Yes.
Representative Tucker.
Yes.
Senator Bennett.
Yes.
Representative Hanley.
Yes.
Senator Carney.
Yes.
Representative Bell.
Yes.
Representative Bloom.
Yes.
Representative Dudera.
Yes.
Representative Gremlich. Absent. Representative Johansson. Absent. Representative O'Connor.
Yes.
Representative Toole. Absent. Representative Ziegler.
Yes.
10 yes, 3 absent.
Right, thank you so much. And with that, we will close the work session on 387 and open up a work session on 735. And this is Representative Bloom's bill. And Representative Bloom, I was hoping perhaps we could do 735 and then 1616, one after the other, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Did you want to speak to these bills?
Yeah, just briefly on 735, I'm going to ask that the committee, well, basically I wanted to withdraw it because it will be subsumed by the work done on LD 1616. So if we have to vote ought not to pass, that's fine. It's an important bill, but it's going to take some time to work on and to incorporate into helping municipalities dealing with climate change. So I would move 735. Well, can I withdraw it or at this point, or should I just move it ought not to pass?
Nope, you have to move it.
Okay, move it ought not to pass.
Great. Is there a second? Representative Tucker's a second. Yes, Dan.
I mean, this is fine. I actually spoke too soon, though. We didn't have a public hearing on this, so I believe we could technically still withdraw it, but it may be more expedient to just move on not to pass at this point. Didn't want to give you false information.
So we have a ought not to pass question on the floor with a second. Any discussion? I think we're ready for the vote, Sabrina.
Hey, Senator Brenner,
Yes.
Representative Tucker,
Yes.
Senator Bennett,
Yes.
Representative Hanley,
Yes.
Senator Carney,
Yes.
Representative Bell,
Yes.
Representative Bloom,
Yes.
Representative Dudera,
Yes.
Representative Gramlich, absent. Representative Johansson, absent. Representative O'Connor,
Yes.
Representative Toole, absent. Representative Ziegler,
Yes.
10 yes, 3 absent.
All right. Representative Tucker.
Are we on 1616 yet?
Yes, that's what we're going to do next.
I'd like to move that we carry over LD 1616. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Bloom, did you have any words about 1616?
Well, I'll second that motion. And I will also just, I wrote to the committee chairs asking for this carryover. It's a partially developed concept draft that Will is using as a vehicle for foundational changes to Title 30A that was analyzed and recommended by the Community Resilience Working Group of the Climate Council in Appendix A. The draft has been additionally developed by a group of graduate law students, which has given it further structure. The main reason I want to carry it over is I expect that GoPIF's pilot project regarding community resiliency planning will further inform the content of this bill and perhaps expand its scope. And I hope to subsume my other bill in there. Therefore, I'm asking that you carry it over. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we have a motion on the floor for a carryover in a second. Any further discussion? All right, let's have a show of hands. Dan, are you all set?
Sorry, I'm good. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And with that, we'll close on 1616 and we're going to move on to 866. Representative Hanley, did you want to address 866?
Yes, thank you, Senator. I would like to. I'm going to ask for carryover on this legislation. As you know, we've discussed hydrofluorocarbons in great detail, and because of the discussions we had and the demonstration by Mr. Lebrecq, there's been a lot of new and interesting information. And my understanding is that the national organizations are also interested in this, in the type of material we're going to try to put together for this legislation in the next session. So I respectfully ask that we carry this over. Thank you.
Wonderful. Is there a motion to carry over?
I'll move to carry it over.
And a second.
Second.
Representative Duderis, a second. Any further discussion? Yes, Dan.
I've just been keeping a tally, and as I'm sure you all know, the presiding officers have provided limits on carryovers. So this would be the committee's 7th and final carryover. I know there's still a couple more bills up, but just wanted to throw that out there.
We're good. We got him. Thank you. We mapped it out a little bit, I think. All right, any further discussion before we vote? All right, show of hands.
I'm good.
All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Representative Hanley. And with that, we'll close 866 and we'll open 890. And the bill sponsor is here. Welcome, Representative Warren.
Sorry, I apologize. I'm in another Zoom trying to, thank you. Thank you, Senator Brennan, and hello, committee, respected colleagues of the Joint Standing Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. And good afternoon, Senator Brenner, Representative Tucker, and all others. I am here just to discuss briefly this concept draft, LD 890. Which would be an act to protect Maine consumers and decrease environmental pollution. The reason why it remains in concept draft form, and I'd assume you'll vote it down, although I would prefer that you didn't, of course. I do feel strongly about this, but I guess I'm new around here and just trying to understand in a unique session, and this being a very complicated issue, environmental protection and how to protect all human beings here in Maine. So I may be misunderstanding some of the goals we have as a state and in our statutes. And I always want to try and be realistic and practical. But I also feel that the scale of the challenge or crisis before us when it comes to addressing climate change, I think the role of a legislative body and of us as politicians has got to be to just make this as simple and clear as possible to the people that we represent. And so my proposal is to a public law from 2019, a bill of Representative Tucker's. And I believe that's for 76 from public law, from that public law in 2019. An amendment on the mandate of the Maine Climate Council to, instead of its current mandates, to put into statute 100% renewable electricity by 2050 as the goal of the Maine Climate Council and the leading by example executive order issued by the chief executive of state agencies. I think that climate change is one of the most important and broadly reaching legal and political issues in our state today. And I think that as a society, we have this big and urgent responsibility to provide a certain amount of care and protection and fairness in how we address climate change. But I think we have to acknowledge that biomass is not the same as solar or onshore wind or maybe offshore wind at some point soon. I just believe that there is a way that we're talking about carbon neutrality or sequestration that is not clearly and effectively communicating the choices that we're making as a legislative body. And so I didn't want to ask any of our very hardworking staff to put anything in writing, and I don't want to take anyone's time more than I already have, but I think that we need 100% renewable electricity by 2050. And I think anything else is just not consistent with the science or the evidence as far as I can understand it. I thank you for your time and for your consideration of this concept draft. And I'd be happy to answer any questions, but appreciate your consideration today.
Thank you so much, Representative Warren. Are there any questions or comments for Representative Warren? All right. Thanks for joining us. Yes, Representative Tucker.
I move ought not to pass on LD 890.
Is there a second? Representative O'Connor?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All right. The questions on the floor, Sabrina, I think we're ready to go.
Senator Brenner,
Yes.
Representative Tucker,
Yes.
Senator Bennett,
Yes.
Representative Hanley,
Yes.
Senator Carney,
Yes.
Representative Bell,
Yes.
Representative Bloom,
Yes.
Representative Dudera,
Yes.
Representative Gramlich,
Yes.
Representative Johansson, absent. Representative O'Connor,
Yes.
Representative Toole, absent. Representative Ziegler,
Yes.
11 yes, 2 absent.
Right. Thank you, everyone. And Representative Warren, 901 is also your concept draft, an act to assist Maine residents negatively affected by climate change.
Yes, thank you. This one concerns it's Maine residents, and the concept has to do with basically less sprawl and suburban sprawl. And in my head, I thought it would have to do with development sort of restrictions, but that would be the Labor and Housing Committee, I believe. And that's the committee that I now serve on. So I don't know at this point in the session, again, I'm new around here, if your committee would be open to sending it to my committee. That's where I would want it to be considered, but that would demand, I'm sure, carryover at this point. So, but that's the work that I've done on it, and I don't believe it's within the jurisdiction of your committee. So I understand if you have to vote it down, but that technically it's you wouldn't be hearing it either way. So
Yeah, it can't get re-referenced at this point, and we've maxed out our carryovers. So I think our plan is to move an ought not to pass for this one. But thank you. Is there a motion? Representative Tucker.
Before I make the motion, I'd like to just say that I have difficulty voting down good ideas. On the other hand, on most of the requests for carryover, we usually had solid reasons for a carryover, and there was some substance to them. There was some previous language. There were good reasons. There was wind behind the sails of the proposal. And on these two bills, it was there was not enough momentum, I think, to justify a carryover. Although the ideas are in line with many of the ideas that many of us have. Having said that, I move ought not to pass on LD 901.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Representative Bloom.
And can I say something as well, please?
Of course, please.
I just want to say to Representative Warren that these are good ideas, and there may be opportunities in other bills to get some of those ideas into them. So I would recommend that you take a look at other vehicles, other bills that are about that you may perhaps be able to influence with some of these good ideas.
Thank you, Representative Bloom. Any further discussion? All right, I believe we're ready for a vote.
Senator Brenner,
Yes.
Representative Tucker,
Yes.
Senator Bennett,
Yes.
Representative Hanley,
Yes.
Senator Carney,
Yes.
Representative Bell,
Yes.
Representative Bloom,
Yes.
Representative Dudera,
Yes.
Representative Gramlich,
Yes.
Representative Johansson, absent, Representative O'Connor,
Yes.
Representative Toole, absent, Representative Ziegler,
Yes.
11 yes, 2 absent.
All right, thank you, everyone. I think that brings us to the end of the carryovers, and all we have left is language review. I do recognize we've been sitting here for quite some time, but my sense is that the language review will move quickly. Do folks want to hang in or take a 5-minute? Hang in? Yeah? Okay, let's do it. Go team. All right, Dan, we're ready for your language review.
So mine are very brief. I would perhaps defer if you wanted to hear from Representative Bell about 1488 first, and Deirdre is here.
That sounds great. So let's listen and learn about 1488 first. Representative Bell, do you want to bring us up to speed?
Yes, thank you.
Just for a reminder, 1488 was our dam study bill.
Yes, so last week, late on Friday, we met, my team met with the Deputy Director of the Maine Emergency Management Association, and we were able to come to agreement with some amendments to the language that we had, and we'd like to present that this afternoon.
Thank you, Representative Bell. Yes, Representative Tucker.
Are we heading into a motion to reconsider, or are we just learning about some drafting details?
Deirdre, my understanding is that this is substantive enough that it would warrant a reconsideration.
It would warrant a reconsideration. It's very different than the original bill.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to reconsider? Yes, Senator Bennett.
Having voted on the prevailing side, I move we reconsider this bill.
Is there a second? Representative Tucker. All right, a show of hands. All set, Deirdre? I think we're good on the reconsider. All right.
Did you want me to go over the amendment or?
Yes,
okay.
please.
All right. So hold on. I wasn't expecting to come on quite this quick, so let me just pull it up. So this differs from the original bill in that the original bill sort of had a lot of the legwork being done by the department. And then there was a list of very specific requirements of what had to be looked at and reported on. This structures it. It's still a resolve. But the first piece is that the department is to request a peer review from the Association of Safety Dam Safety Officials to be completed by June 1st, 2022. Once they get that report in, then the department is required, not the Department of Environmental Protection, this is the Department of Defense, Veterans and Emergency Management, as a reminder. Then they're required to conduct a stakeholder process to review that peer-reviewed report and to seek public input on that peer-reviewed report, and also to discuss any recommendations to address any deficiencies that are identified in that report. And it allows the department to designate an outside entity to facilitate and assist in the stakeholder process under that section. So first you get the peer review, then you do the stakeholder process, and then third, it requires a report back to the VLA committee in the 131st legislature. So this would be due back in January of 2023 that would talk about that stakeholder process, provide the results of that peer review, and any recommendations for legislative changes. Lastly, it does authorize the department to receive outside funding to do any of these things. So to pay for the peer review or to implement and do the stakeholder process, they can receive outside funding from public or private sources, including any federal funding, because there was some question that other people may be willing to pay for this process. And then if they do receive any outside funding, they have to also disclose that in their report to the committee so that they know who funded the report. So it's like a three-part process. You have the peer review, you have the stakeholder process, and then you have a report from the department that summarizes all of those pieces together. It goes to the VLA committee, who can then report out a bill based on that report.
Thank you, Deirdre. Are there any questions for Deirdre or for Representative Bell? All right. Perhaps we can entertain a motion. Yes, Representative Tucker.
I move we pass the dam survey bill as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
Representative Ziegler. Any further discussion? All right, I believe we are ready for a vote.
Senator Brenner,
Yes.
Representative Tucker,
Yes.
Senator Bennett,
Yes.
Representative Hanley,
No.
Senator Carney,
Yes.
Representative Bell,
Yes.
Representative Bloom,
Yes.
Representative Dudera,
Yes.
Representative Gramlich,
Yes.
Representative Johansson, absent. Representative O'Connor,
No.
Representative Toole, absent. Representative Ziegler,
Yes.
9 yes, 2 no's, 2 absent.
And the minority report?
Ought not to pass.
Thank you. All right, Deirdre, are you all set there?
I am, thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, Dan, I think we're ready for your language reviews.
Okay, so I brought back language from 3 bills that were voted on Friday that you hadn't seen language for before. The rest of them, there was language floating around somewhere that did not change much. Knowing that we're getting towards the end of the committee's ability to keep meeting, I wanted to bring the language back at least now, so there won't be any surprises if and when we need to do this review remotely. So I'll screen share very quickly and go through these very quickly. The first is LD 57. This is Representative Tucker's bill about MSW fees. This is the majority report. As I noted, there was a rulemaking provision in the law that contained the MSW surcharge that was being repealed, that I recommended be migrated into the new, into the existing waste handling fee section. That's the new language here. It's not adding anything new to statute. It's just putting it in a different place regarding fees. The second proposal is the minority report for LD 911, which is Representative Falkingham's bill about the plastics. And that bill has been changed into a resolve directing the DEP to review applicable state, federal, and international protocols regarding inspection and port offloading safety mandates for solid waste and solid recovered fuels, such as coal and oil, and honor before January 15th, 2022. Report to this committee any findings and recommendations resulting from that review, and then there's authority for legislation. And the last is the committee amendment to LD 1662, which is Representative Dillingham's bill regarding the flame retardants in upholstered furniture. There were two changes in that amendment. The first is to exclude from the prohibition in the current law any electric components and associated electronic component casings of upholstered furniture. And this is placed a little bit differently than what you saw in the amendment that was proposed. So I'm just going to flip over real quickly to the statute. The statute includes a sales prohibition, which we talked about a bit regarding the percentage of flame retardants in the furniture, and then it includes an exemption section. And the exemption section reads, the restrictions in subsection 2 do not apply to the following products containing flame retardant chemicals. And as you saw in the amendment, it excludes, or I guess exempts is the right word, those electronic components and associated casings. The other piece here is the retailer indemnification provision. Although I understand that the language was taken directly from perhaps the New Hampshire law, I did tweak the language a bit for I believe, better readability and clarity. But at least this is out here now and is available to those stakeholders that worked on this. And I'm sure I will hear from them if I have botched it. So those are the three I wanted to bring back to you. I'll stop my share and I can answer any questions.
Any questions for Dan about those three? All right, I think that brings us to a close. Is there anything I'm forgetting? Okay. All right, so we will get back to you all about a time where we will meet again, either Wednesday or Friday, to finish up our work on, let's see, it was LD 1467 and whatever remaining language review we have left to do. Probably, I think we'll probably connect about it this afternoon, I would imagine, timing wise, so that you guys can plan for your week. And then get an email out to you. Any questions, announcements, thoughts? All right, thank you all for your hard work. Have a great afternoon. Happy birthday, Senator Bennett.
Thank you again, Madam Chair.